Good evening, race fans, and welcome to tonight's coverage of the penultimate round, round 7 of the Continental Racing League Season 2 Teams Championship live on TRTN. As always, I am Ricard, and it's my great pleasure to bring you to Le Castellet here in France, at the home of the former French Grand Prix, here from the circuit Paul Ricard. Founded in 1970, comprised of 13 turns and a little over 3.5 miles, that's a little over 5.7 kilometres of FIA Grade 1 in its chicaneless Grand Prix variation introduced in 2005, the circuit Paul Ricard in its life post-Formula 1 now sees primary competition on the Vale of endurance racing. Its three largest calendar events coming from the European Le Mans Series, GT World Challenge Europe Series and the FIM Endurance World Championship, the latter of which features their largest round here at Paul Ricard, a 24-hour race by the name of the Bol d'Or. Otherwise, recent developments see it join the calendar this year for the Asian Le Mans Series in a bizarre calendar mix-up and the TCR World Tour Series. It also returns to the calendar of TCR Europe and Ferrari Challenge Europe, continuing to see persistent competition since 2017 of the FFSA GT Series, and will serve as the penultimate round of the championship here, with a real chance for Yuya Oya to emerge as champion today. More on that though in a moment. And taking a look where we find ourselves so far, reeling out from action at round 6 at the Brands Hatch circuit in England, saw Rob Appleton and Onid Racing to their first win of the season. It was Appleton's second appearance to season 2, having made his debut alongside Daniel Den Hollander at round 5, the latter of which made their inaugural win on debut. As far as that concerns the championship standings, taking a look from the Drivers' Championship standings first, before taking a look at the teams and manufacturers, Yuya Oya leads over Daniel Comendi by 24 points. With Mark Burton rounding out the top 3, it's Connor Brennan to 4th place, and now up into the top 5 goes Smelly Hippie with 222 points. Behind him in 6th place is Samuel Linton Bell, teammate of Reese Humphries, as we see here making his way around the track at the moment. Bell had persistent troubles in Brands Hatch in the Mercedes last week. Eduardo Odoni makes 7th place with 204 points. Guy Rayfield in 8th with 197 points. Rob Appleton following their first victory of the season, now 9th place ahead of Daniel Den Hollander to round out that top 10, 186 points to 181. As far as it concerns the team's championships, Audi Sport Team Apex continue to lead the charge, 124 points in the clear over CRT BMW. CRT Team Comac make 3rd place, with Onid Racing now up to 4th following their first victory of the season. Humble Racing now down to 5th, with Vanguard still in 6th, Stinking Rich to 7th, with CRT Racing Porsche recently up to 8th. They stand now 8 points over the Mustang Team, down to 9th place, and Stranger Team rounds out the top 10 with 151 points. In the manufacturer standings, Ferrari continue to win on the numbers game here over Audi, outnumbering the R8s with their legion of 296s. They're 614 points strong as it stands at the moment. It's 30 points between the two leading manufacturers in the run towards round 7's double race today. Mercedes marked 3rd, with BMW 4th, Ford in 5th, McLaren 6th, Porsche 7th, and Lamborghini 8th, leaves everything where it stood as of last round at Brands Hatch. Looking at the regulations for tonight, we come back into the double race format, first seen at round 2 of the championship, and you join us here in 10 minutes of free practice. Coming up around the corner then, Quali 1, 20 minutes to set the stage for Race 1's grid, and then we'll run it back to another 20 minutes and 25 minutes for Quali 2 and Race 2. Neither of the two races today will feature mandatory pit stops. It's an open playing field here, one that could yield some seriously high points for one particular driver. We'll get on into that in a moment's time. We follow at the moment with Reese Humphries, but let's go to catch on board with what could very well be the driver of the hour. Currently residing in the pit lane, then, Yuya Oya stands the greatest chance of all to become champion in tonight's event. It has been quite the conquest for the Finnish talent. Taking a look through his last couple of victories, only one example left him out of the podium, giving him currently an approximate podium percentage of 85% over the course of the last 6 rounds, including the doubleheader at round 2 of the championship. As far as the odds concerned at the moment, with 201 points left in the competition before the season finale in Suzuka on September 5th, we have a 2/3 of that available points haul available to us in tonight's round. The gap needed to win here at round 7 of 8 is 67 points, so the gap currently at 24 between Oya and Comendi. Oya needs to outscore Comendi by 43 points to secure it in tonight's event. Comendi has to show up to defend, and we're told right as we're having this conversation, Daniel Comendi is here in Paul Ricard. So suddenly there has been a great layer added to everything here for Yuya Oya. There were worries over whether or not Daniel Comendi would return. He was a no-show at round 6 of the championship. There were fears he may not show to round 7, but now it seems that those fears have been met head-on by Ferrari's Daniel Comendi, who, if I'm not mistaken, could be likely to make his way out on track in a moment's time. He now joins us here from the paddock, and this is going to make for a very, exciting installation of the championship. With 4 minutes left to go, let's go to catch on board with the fastest driver of today's session. And going to locate them at this time, it's last round's race winner, the 153 of Rob Appleton. Onid Racing's expanded lineup has played a pivotal role in their recent procession into the top 5, now into 4th in the team's championship, and they stand chance to snatch away 3rd before the season is out. With double points up available for us tonight then, it is going to be an exciting one here for Appleton. He could be laying claim to his 2nd or perhaps 3rd wins in a row if he really plays his cards right for tonight's event. He's got 2 qualifying sessions to show up for. Right now, his fastest here in free practice in the Onid Racing 153. But let's take a look at what he'll be facing off against over the course of tonight's round under BOP. Right now, Ferrari's one of 4 manufacturers to be losing weight for tonight's round. Porsche, Audi and BMW being the other 3. Porsche look to be lightest for today's event, 10 kilos off of the 992 as per listings by Pitskill.io. Ferrari losing 5 kilos, Audi losing 4, and BMW losing only 1. It's neither weight gained nor weight lost for the case of Lamborghini and McLaren. They're neutral for today's round. Factory weight for the Huracan and the 720S. 2 manufacturers gaining weight, one much more severely over the other. Mercedes only a single kilo gain, so really quite minimal changes for the AMG GT3, but Ford are on the short end of it. 10 kilos on for the Mustang in tonight's round. So it seems written in the stars here, and I suppose we're better considering we do have a double night race ahead of us here for more victories to follow for perhaps Ferrari, perhaps Rob Appleton, and perhaps Onid Racing. But they do have one very prevalent target to stay clear of, I would say. It's this one here, Daniel Den Hollander, winner of round 5 of the championship. Won on debut. It was a bit of a lackluster run of things at round 6 in Brands Hatch, struggling to get to grips with the 818 over the course of that last round gone. One of the longer rounds of the championship, mind you, as what we'll see later at the season finale. Same regs there, 90-minute race. He currently finds himself then 2nd by 368 thousandths away from Appleton. Then Smelly Hippie to make P3. Now, Hippie has been on the climb when it comes to outright pace. We now see displaced to 4th by Neil Wagstaff. Now 3rd in today's session, but that doesn't take away as we now see Julian Den Hollander. Now, this is a curiosity because speaking of drivers who are struggling, it was this one of the 2 Den Hollanders to have a bit of a rotten time in Brands Hatch. Now there's a broadly different state of affairs coming the way of the Porsche. Of course, they're one of 4 manufacturers to be losing weight tonight. So it really does seem on his side here for the Porsche to be the one that challenges Ferrari's dominant control at the head of the field. We'll see, of course, up in towards qualifying. Sadly, no quali predictions to come along with them, so we come into this session, much like the drivers will be, in the blind. Limited visibility available to the drivers today. Of course, nighttime racing on a track that only has partial lighting, as you can see here on the run down through the Barrage de la Saint-Baume onto the Mistral Straight, and we'll get the track tool sorted over the course of qualifying. Fast conditions, though. Right now, temperature is really at its all-time low. It's 9 degrees right now. This might very well be the coldest race we've ever seen here on TRT. And we've seen some remarkably hot races in the past. I believe the hottest we saw on record was, I think, 45 degrees Celsius at the Valencia circuit in one iteration of the NLRL Sunday League, if memory serves rightly. It was a blisteringly hot race, one that tortured the Pirellis. Now it'll be quite the opposite. They're going to be desperate to build heat in those tyres if the conditions stay as they are. 9 degrees right now. It is going to be a rather chilly one here. I suppose that is a breath of fresh air, given the current state of European weather. It has been a scorcher in the last month and a half across Western Europe, so this is going to be quite a broadly new direction for the drivers to face off against. Of course, they've come against rain and shine this season, but cold dries, I don't believe that's something we've yet seen. Neil Wagstaff now 2nd and closing on his teammate Rob Appleton. So Onid get a 1-2 at the moment. What is Den Hollander's response right now as he stood just before the end of that last lap was 6 thousandths ahead? He's now 48 thousandths ahead of his fellow Den Hollander. Daniel 4th, Julian 3rd, Samuel Linton Bell rounds out the top 5. Smelly Hippie in 6th. They're now down to 7th as right at the very end of the session it's the possible champion to be. Now it does raise a very curious case with Comendi now on the grid. That does make things a lot more difficult for Yuya Oya, as this is now a gap he's going to have to build over the course of today's round. It's 24 points he holds at the moment. He'll need to get up roughly here 21.5 points per race if he wants to secure it tonight here in round 7. That's a bit of a tall order, but Oya is going to have to give it absolutely everything over the course of today's session if he means to come through with a championship title tonight. Otherwise, they'll lay claim to the final round of the championship and do battle in Japan, the Suzuka International Racing Course, at round 8. That's on September 5th. Oya second fastest at the end of the session. Nearest to the line is the 46 here, I believe. This is Sean Moore with EverQuip Racing Ferrari. Making his way down through the Virage du Pont. Down towards the line here in the chicaneless version of the circuit, Paul Ricard. He finishes the session there up and ahead of Onid Racing's 112. That's Oscar Dizzy-Oskal. Now, nearest to the line is the number 8, so Neil Wagstaff back on his run through the Virage de la Tour. Now to the Virage du Pont. And as we get on in towards the opening flying laps of today's qualifying session here in Quali 1, just around the corner, we're talking a little bit more about the key characteristics to watch out for here at the circuit, Paul Ricard. Wagstaff third at the end of free practice, so a very solid start to things. You can see he's not too far off the chances of a P2 start. He really does have to lock in, though, over the course of qualifying. Across the line a moment ago there, I believe, was the number 919, so that's Julian Den Hollander fourth over Daniel Den Hollander, still 48 thousandths apart from one another. As across the line a moment ago, when I believe that was the sound there of, was that one of the, never mind, I guess we'll never know. On the run in towards qualifying 1 then, 20 minutes on the clock here for Quali 1. We see an immediate rocket out of the pit lanes then by Rob Appleton, but it looks to be one of the CRT BMWs first out among the fray. So let's go to catch on board with that leading car. And we see here it is with Mark Taylor in the 555. Alongside teammate Matthew G. Taylor formed the CRT BMW lineup. At the start of the season, they were the CRT GTR lineup and made that transfer over the course of this season, and it has been one that has definitely proven fruitful for the duo. The BMW team are now second in the championship, behind that of Audi Sport Team Apex, and not too far away as it would stand at the moment. A manageable distance, but they'll need more troubles among the ranks of the Audi Sport Team Apex lineup if they want to close the gap before Suzuka. It's going to be a very tall order for them tonight, but we'll see how they get on. So making his way down the elongated Mistral straight, and I say that because it lacks the Mistral chicane that's used in the Grand Prix layout for the French Grand Prix up until its final installation in what I believe was 2022 in Formula 1. And you see lining the track's perimeter here are these blue and red lines. It's one of the most key characteristics. It's one of the most easily recognizable parts, I should say, of the circuit, Paul Ricard. And this was a safety innovation brought in to try and cut back on the use of gravel traps. And you have these two distinctive areas here, these ribbons of highly abrasive. It's a mixture of asphalt and tungsten, I'm told. You have the blue zone, which is already quite abrasive, and the idea is that it catches the car mid-slide and slows it down as it runs across those lines at the cost of significant tyre degradation. Then you have the red zone, which is that on steroids. It's even stronger, even more abrasive. It will chew those tyres if you run out wide on them. And then the last line of defence, of course, as you can see, lining the outermost edge of the track are those Armco and Tech Pro barriers. So following on board with Mark Taylor for the first of our flying laps here at the circuit, Paul Ricard, making our way then down the opening straight in towards the Verrières. This opening S-bend section is one of the most divisive points of this track's design, because that second part of the Verrières, as you can see, starts off almost on camber and then transfers into being off camber. You mount up over that crest. It's very awkward on the car as we make our way in towards the Virage de la Hotel here in the opening sector. And this almost boot-shaped section of the track. I mean, it's a bit of an odd-shaped boot, but it loops back in on itself. To make our way from the Virage du Camp down through the Virage de la Saint-Baume and on towards the Mistral Straight. So you can see it slingshots the car out towards the left. And this straightaway section here is where we're going to see probably the most dominant performances out of that of Ford, out of BMW, and I'd even say at a squeeze today, there's the possibility out of Ferrari. Down the Mistral Straight up towards the Curb de Sang, very fast right-hander ahead of us. It's got an extended runoff area. And this is where we could see drivers get up to 3, maybe even 4 wide on the run through our 2 races today. Making our way through to the Curb de Sang. Fast right-hander here from the driver's eye view because he runs out wide. He's guided back in by those signposts, and that's all legal That's the great part about this track limit set here. It's based off of the GT World Challenge Europe Series up and around Le Bousset. So we have a little bit more leniency when it comes to what's acceptable within these flying laps. It could lead to the drivers getting a little bit more elbows out over the course of today's two qualifying sessions, I should say as well. Off the exit of the Virage de Vendôme, down through the Curve de Garlaban we go. This long sweeping right-hander in towards a sharpening left-hander here at the Virage de la Tour, and that sharpens up even more in the opposite direction into this almost hairpin-like right here at the Virage du Pont. Runs a little wide there for the run down towards the line. That might have actually invalidated him. We'll see, though, to the line from the 555. Mark Taylor, the first of two of the BMWs to the line. And across, it was invalidated there, I believe, for Taylor. So it's Rob Appleton to be our benchmark time, 154.232. A very strong start indeed to today's session. Colin Beattie goes to second from behind there. That's another one of the owned cars, but it was invalid over the course of that lap. Matthias Winter now goes to second. Neil Wagstaff immediately matches him. Then Daniel Den Hollander goes to third. It's already then a Ferrari 1, 2, and 3. Across the line a moment ago went I believe that was the 919, Julian Den Hollander, onto another flying lap. From behind him goes the number 93, so that's the teammate of Matthias Winter, Richard Claffey at CRT Racing Porsche. And they're both down a peg. Oh, it's contact. That was indeed contact off the exiting. I don't believe I caught a glimpse of what car that was, but that was a very abrupt exit. Sadly, we can't go on the replays to show you as it will reset our timing equipment, but that was drama as early as qualifying, a rare sight in any championship. I think we might have the culprit there. That might have been the 420. You can see him limping out through the Verrières, down through to the Garage de la Hotel. So Samuel Linton Bell now fifth, Smelly Hippie in fourth. Actually, no, it couldn't have been the 420 because he had already laid in a flying lap. So who was that then that the number 93 collided with? Guy Rayfield now in seventh. Colin Beattie's down to ninth. Connor Brennan rounds out the top 10 with Sean Moore in 11th. Bjorn Lars Blank of Oned Racing in 12th. That's now 13th with the arrival of Reese Humphreys of the Humbel Racing team. And number 12, now 12th. Number 81 is nearest to the line. Let's go to catch on board then with one of the new drivers on the block. And this is a curiosity to speak for the first time on this one's progress. Now, this one here is René Dola of the number 81 Ostblock Racing, or I believe Team Ostblock, I should say, Porsche 992. Sadly, no time set for Dola, but they've still got 14 minutes left in this first of two qualifying sessions, so plenty of time there. And we now see the first valid lap from Mark Taylor, and it is a strong one to boot there for the BMW number 555, and right now, the only of the BMWs of the CRT BMW lineup. So Taylor's buys a lonesome. He's not joined by the 888 of Matthew G. Taylor. He's now down reluctantly there to fifth place, as first it was Comendi, then it was Oyer. Oyer by half a tenth from Rob Appleton's leading time. Now this could be a very interesting next 13.5 minutes here in Quali 1, because we could be looking at a perhaps even triple header shootout here in qualifying between these three, two of which from Owned Racing, the other being from the leading team of this championship, Audi Sport Team Apex. Rob Appleton then still fastest, 154.232. And then with a 154.282 is Yuya Oya in second. Neil Wagstaff makes third. Daniel Comendi, the championship rival of Yuya Oya, is in today's session, fortunately so, to continue to fight the chances of a championship title. He's in fourth place there by 463 thousandths of a second. He's about there 120 thousandths from Wagstaff's third place spot. So still fairly close, relatively speaking, there for that second row. Across the line, the 656 a moment ago. Following him was the number 12. That would be for Reese Humphreys. From 16th, leaps up there 6 positions to 10th place. That relegates Richard Claffey to 11th. He's still alongside teammate Matthias Winter, but the pair of them have been now shoved down to that 6th row. Across the line a moment ago went the 199. That's Richie Nielsen of Stinkin' Rich, making his way in towards the Verrières. And number 81 followed from behind him. Following them was the 555. So we saw the 81 to the line a moment ago, and that was for René Dola. As for Mark Taylor, they stay in 5th place. 153 from behind them. That's the leader at the moment, and no further advance on that fastest time for Rob Appleton in the last lap. I'm told that one was invalidated for him, so he stays still at pole position, of course, but 154.232 is the impenetrable barrier that remains for now. There's a whole swarm of cars backed up from behind him there. Leading that charge was Colin Beattie. who's now down, I believe, just now to 14th place, as across the line a moment ago went the 919 Julian Den Hollander to 8th place. He's up and ahead of Samuel Linton-Bell and Matthias Winter. So Porsche hold 20% of that top 10 right now. Samuel Linton-Bell advances up to 8th place, forcing Den Hollander down to 9th. Mercedes got a 10% stake in that top 10. That's the same story of BMW, Lamborghini and Audi. Right now, 40%. The majority stake of the top 10 is in Ferrari's hands. Across the line a moment ago, Hippie now to 4th. He's ahead of Comendi, and that is doing quite a grand favour, inadvertently so, to Yuya Oya, because he's advancing that gap and thus advancing the distance on points. These two will have, if they are to finish where they stand at the end of this first of two coming races. Now, we laid the claim he'd need roughly 21.5 points worth of an improvement over Comendi per race if he wanted to wrap up the championship in tonight's round. Right now, that doesn't seem like odds tenable enough to consider, but we will keep them in the back of our minds should anything change. Right now, from where they stand, Yuya Oya's looking at the possibility of pole position. The best case scenario would be a win on race 1. But under those stipulations, he would need Daniel Comendi to finish, right now, just having a glance at it, 6th or below. So he is going to be preying upon the greatest of starts here by Mark Taylor and Daniel Den Hollander to immediately challenge Comendi's 5th place. He'll be praying for himself to have a grand start of today's first of two races to try and get the leap there. I almost said the lump. I was trying to get either the leap or the jump, but get the leap on Rob Appleton. Now halfway in towards Quali 1, Appleton now extends the margin, so it's looking a bit bleak here for Yuya Oya, as right now Appleton has just broken what we previously labelled an impenetrable barrier. And now, oh my word, I was not expecting that. As a rebuttal, Yuya Oya now fastest, and he shattered that last time from what was 2/10 away from him. Now puts 38 thousandths as the cherry on top of the new fastest lap, 1:54.017. We are now, pardon me, dangerously close to breaking into the high 153s. Across the line a moment ago went I believe it was the 187, Guy Rayfield of Vanguard Motorsports. We saw last round in the visit to Brands Hatch, was his teammate Tom Stolmeyer, who was by his lonesome. Right now, the Vanguard guys just can't seem to catch a break because it's always one and not the other. They've not been at full power for quite a fair few rounds here, so Rayfield looks to be acting alone for McLaren today. So with 8 minutes left to go, nearest to the line is the number 46. That'll be for Sean Moore from 14th place, and the Everquip Racing Ferrari stays right where he is. Number 8's nearest. Here's Wagstaff. Wagstaff's got quite the distance to travel here, where it's looking very, very close between his teammate, Rob Appleton, and currently the new pole sitter, Yuya Oya. He himself has to try and get about 360 thousandths here if he means to even challenge for P2. And that would be to challenge his own teammate. Number 818 across the line to start another flyer. Daniel Den Hollander now faster than Julian Den Hollander. The two make the 4th row at the moment. And the 818 and the 919 we see holding the right-hand side there. This is super sketchy pit exit. And Daniel Comendi now up to 3rd. So this really does squander the plans by Yuya Oya. Would have needed Comendi to drop down to 6th, and Oya would have had to take the race win to start advancing that gap in meaningful enough increments to challenge for a championship title tonight. It looks like these two could very likely wrap their story up next week coming, I believe it is, on September the 5th. Comendi's most recent lead then puts him 800ths in the clear over Neil Wagstaff, but that is a gap that could very quickly be challenged. But as I'm told here, we see from the number 8 making his way to the curb to Sang. He's got 7.5 minutes left to go in the session. It appears, though, invalid for him at the moment. So having possibly invalidated over Sector 1 here as we make our way in towards Sector 3 now. Out through Le Bousset and up towards the Virage de Bendour. Looking at here, one of the closest gaps on track at the moment. It is 3 thousandths of a second for 8th place between the two Porsches. Number 92 of CRT Racing Porsches, Matthias Winter, and the number 919 of Julian Den Hollander. Super, super close margin we're seeing there. That might very well be, I'm just having a quick glance around, that might very well be the closest gap we have to any two positions on track at the moment. The driver's yet to set any times here, and it is a curious one as we drop in now nearly some 3/4 of the way into Quali 1 is Richie Nielsen. You can see his troubles with that Lamborghini seem most prevalent in today's event as he struggles to get around the Virage de Bendor. Across the line then, Comendi stays right where he is from 3rd place. It's been very respectable so far. Across the line a moment ago, I believe, yes, it was Matthias Winter, now to go up into 8th place ahead of Julian Den Hollander. Winter now up into 8th place. He holds 5 thousandths of a second worth of a lead over Den Hollander in 9th. He's got Daniel Den Hollander up in front of him there for 7th, keeping him company from the 4th row. Rob Appleton across the line stays 38 thousandths in the red against Yuya Oya. It is very, very interesting to see how this one pans out because Oya seems more than fired up. And Onid Racing, it's been a story so far since the end of the mid-season break. It has been a story of constant movement for these guys. It's perpetual in nature. They've just been gaining more and more momentum since the expansion of their lineup at round 5. And that came case in point last round with their first win as a team, courtesy of this one here. And they are looking to continue to fill that trophy cabinet. So let's see what Appleton can make of things here in the last 5 minutes of today's session. He's out through the Virage de la Sainte-Baume onto the Mistral straight. From behind him there, I believe, is the McLaren of Guy Rayfield for Vanguard Motorsport. Nearest to the line is the 46, so we'll go to locate Sean Moore of Everquip Racing. Down across the line from 15th place he goes, stays right where he is. From behind him, the number 8 approaches the line. That'll be for Neil Wagstaff. Right now, goes up into 3rd, now replacing Comendi on the last of those podium positions here. 4.5 minutes left to go, roughly speaking about 3 laps for these drivers at a squeeze. Wagstaff now onto the podium, edges ever closer to that front row start. Now, it's worth noting, taking a look there, he needs about 82 thousandths of a second to come up into 2nd place over his teammate Rob Appleton. Fighting the closer of 2 margins, though, on that podium. Appleton still in pursuit of pole position. He makes his way now out through the Virage du Pont, so just about to finish this flyer. He's got 4 minutes left to go. As it stands to be the case, if he can really hammer down here, he might have a chance at 2 more laps available to him. Across the line he goes and stays 38 thousandths away. It can be quite a demoralizing thing to see that timer tick down. Right now, Appleton's been in his own world pursuing pole. He may have very well met his match in the form of Yuya Oya today. That Audi has been fired up over the course of this round. Number 21 across the line a moment ago. Samuel Linton Bell leaps from 10th to 7th in the number 21 Mercedes, now up and ahead of both the Den Hollanders and Matthias Winter. 3 positions for the price of 1. Samuel Linton Bell now heads up the 4th row, and as it stands there, looking at the gap, is in fact 16 thousandths of a second clear over Daniel Den Hollander, who is out on track at the moment, just on his way through the Virage de la Sainte-Baume. Number 818 now falls another position as the Humbel team really do seem to be firing on all 8 cylinders now. Rhys Humphreys marks 7th place up and ahead of his teammate Samuel Linton Bell, but it's a 4th row lockout for Humbel. And this matters to them quite a fair deal because they are trying to get their way back up into 4th place in the championship for the teams. They've recently fallen in behind Onid. It's not what they want to see right now, especially so close to the sort of the finish line here at the end of the season. Big step out there for Humphreys as the inside curb caught him. And that spells, most likely speaking here, the end of his qualifying endeavours here in Quali 1 of 2. But as far as opening Quali sessions goes, we have 2 of them to play with over the course of today's event. Not too shabby at all from the Humbel team. We'll see if it holds over the rest of today's session. Most recent advance there came from, I believe, the number 93. Yes, Richard Claffey now into the top 10, up and ahead of his teammate Matthias Winter, and up and ahead of fellow Porsche Julian Den Hollander. Recent advance there across the line a moment ago for the 555, now to 4th, and ahead of Daniel Comendi. Things are starting to come up positive in the way of Yuya Oya, because this is much closer to that estimated gap he'll need. He'll need himself to be P1, he'll need Comendi to be P6. at the end of both of these races in order to come up with the championship. So it's starting to come up positive there for the number 11. Moreover, for Mark Taylor, acting alone for CRT BMW is without his teammate Matthew G. Taylor. He's already put BMW into a very respectable 4th place. BMW could definitely stand to challenge on the Mistral Straight. They're one of the faster cars in selection at the moment. So if Taylor can have a good run out through that first sector, he could find himself on an early charge to a podium over the course of the first couple of laps today. I'll leave you on board with Mark Taylor for just a moment, on board to the BMW. And we'll be back to you in just a moment's time before the end of qualifying today. Following here with Mark Taylor, he is on an improvement on the run out through the Virage du Pont. Could he come up in towards 3rd place? Across the line he goes. No, but does find an improvement just before the end of today's session. Rob Appleton down across the line and on to pole position in the closing moments. Is there the possibility of rebuttal by Oyer? 600th is what has to be met here on a 1:53.957, the new fastest time right in the closing moments of Quali 1 by Onid Racing's Rob Appleton. Oyer's on his way down through turn 13 here at the Virage du Pont. Can the Finn match it? He's arcing in there to the right-hand side. The answer seems all evident. No, he cannot. That is not to take away from what a solid qualifying session he has had, but an even better one to Onid Racing and Rob Appleton. The new fastest time of the session, it's worth noting. His teammate Neil Wagstaff is back into the pit lane. Daniel Kimendi is still out on track, so he could sneak in a charge to P4 as Mark Taylor is back in the pit lane. Also joining him on track at the moment appears to be the number 656. And the number 153, of course, we mentioned the 153 a moment ago, Rob Appleton, but the 656 being Eduardo Odoni. Making his way down through Le Bousset at this time. Oh, we can hear sliding there. That was the number 5. He's gone head over heels. Kimendi spun down at Le Bousset. And that brings about the end of qualifying 1 here on the run-up towards race 1 of 2 at round 7. The Continental Racing League Season 2 Teams Championship. Taking a look into those regs for just a moment. 25 minutes of racing to follow with no mandatory pit stops in effect. And then we'll run everything back for another qualifying session and another 25-minute race. So as it stands then for the run-up towards race 1 of 2, it's Rob Appleton on pole position with Yuya Oyer in 2nd, Neil Wagstaff in 3rd, Mark Taylor in 4th, and Daniel Kimendi rounds out that top 5. Across the line a moment ago there went the number 656, Eduardo Odoni, rounds out the session 17th. So on the run-up towards the first of 2 grids today, a glance in at the news and taking a look at our first article of news. Spoilers ahead for those curious over the proceedings at this weekend's Dutch Grand Prix in Formula 1 as coming into the end of its first of 2 races, the sprint race. It was George Russell to take the win at the Dutch GP Sprint. He got the sprint pole position not too long ago. And the British talent taking home yet another win at the GP Sprint. In terms of the overall Dutch Grand Prix, I'm told it is Lando Norris to take pole position in lieu of tomorrow's Grand Prix. Taking a look elsewhere from Formula 1, news developing out of the World Endurance Championship. Of course, it was the circuit Paul Ricard that played as a centrepiece for quite a few interesting developments in WEC in the last few weeks. We saw it as the testing grounds for Ferrari, Peugeot, and most recently for Ford. But now Aston Martin has been testing the Valkyrie Evo. But get this, not here, over in Silverstone. Aston Martin confirmed that a Valkyrie Evo is on its way. They've been testing new rear aero packages among several other changes to their experimental Valkyrie hypercar in lieu of the 2027 season. Also cited testing over at Silverstone was McLaren in their newly named MCL HY GTR, the first endurance line McLaren to use the GTR name since the Le Mans winning F1 GTR. We're just about then 55 seconds before the start of the formation lap. Having a look at the grid as they head on in towards what is a manual formation lap. As we take a look at the rules up onto the right-hand side of your screens, it's Rob Appleton on pole position with Yuya Oya in second, Neil Wagstaff in third, and Mark Taylor in fourth. Daniel Comendi makes fifth with Smelly Hippie in sixth, Daniel Den Hollander in seventh with Connor Brennan in eighth, Samuel Linton Bell in ninth, and Reese Humphreys rounds out the top 10 on an all-Humble all Humble row 5, not top 5 there, sorry. Richard Claffey and Matthias Winter make it an all CRT Racing Porsche 6th row there, 11th and 12th between the pair of them. Julian Den Hollander in 13th as we see the cars now firing up at the head of that field. We'll get on board in a moment with Rob Appleton. Sean Moore in 14th, Guy Rayfield 15th, Oscar Dizzy Oskal in 16th, Eduardo Odoni in 17th, Colin Beattie in 18th, Bjorn Lars Blank in 19th, and Andre Koch rounds out the top 20. New driver René Dola makes 21st place ahead of Richie Nielsen, and Salvatore Borgetto joins the field late for a 23rd place start. Going on board then to go and catch in with the leading cars. We now get on towards the formation lap here, going to catch that 153 up at the head of the field. Now, of course, it is a non-UI formation lap, as has been standard over the course of Season 2, one of its most unique aspects. So the drivers have to do all of this manually. They'll have to maintain a speed anywhere between 90 and 100 kilometers an hour. That's 55 to 62 miles an hour. They'll have to know their starting positions, and of course, these front couple of rows here will have remembered it intently, especially at the head of that field. They'll have to judge their formation speed without any on-screen prompts, so there could be risk of penalties. We have seen it to be a case earlier in the season. They'll have to line up correctly for the race start. That applies to both of the races available to us today. 25 minutes of racing here on race 1. In terms of overtaking opportunities here at the circuit Paul Ricard, the run down through the Virage de la Hotel does open up a possible switchback section as it loops in towards the Virage du Cap. Now, as we exit here from the Virage de la Saint-Baume onto the Mistral Straight, this straight line section will be plentiful for slipstreaming opportunities. That will lead drivers to go possibly 2, possibly 4 abreast on the run up towards the Curb de Sang. Now, the Curb de Sang will spill an end to many of those side-by-side endeavours, as drivers will really try their luck, as we've seen it historically to be the case. Not impossible, though, to do the full length of that corner side-by-side, so it could be a very exciting area to watch, certainly one of our favourite areas of the track, and that brings us into another overtaking opportunity, the almost double apex hairpin right at the Le Busset corner. And that loops up in towards the Virage de Bendor, so almost a bit of an S-bend section there that creates opportunities for switchbacks. The next overtaking opportunity will be off the exit of the Virage du Pont on the run to the opening straight, culminating in moves at the Verrières S's. As we follow on board with Rob Appleton, you can see the rest of the field piling up behind him there. 23 cars in attendance. It's 12 on one side, 11 on the other here at the circuit Paul Ricard, former home of the French Grand Prix. Took over the mantle from the Circuit Magny Cours in Formula 1. Its longest calendar event on the sort of major event stages, of course, as mentioned earlier in the stream, the FIM Endurance World Championships Bol d'Or, the 24-hour motorcycle racing event. Largest event on the calendar for the FIM Endurance World Championship, of which visits roughly 4 to 5 destinations a year, including this one. And of course, he's prominent racing since 2010 of the European Le Mans Series. And some can make the argument it's the second largest destination for endurance racing in France, outside of the Circuit de la Sarthe, during the 24 Hours of Le Mans weekend. Making our way then down through the Virage de la Tour. In lieu of the race start then, 25 minutes against the clock here for race 1 of 2 at round 7 of Season 2 of the Continental Racing League Teams Championship. And so the drivers will be given the go-ahead in a moment's time. We brace for impact then. 23 cars, 11 on one side, 12 on the other, as we brace for impact down to the line here at the circuit Paul Ricard. Without further ado then, the drivers will be given the all clear in a moment. And we are green and racing here in the circuit. Paul Ricard, you can see there, it was a bit of a suspenseful moment for the drivers, and no penalties dished out, which is quite the relief on the run-up towards the Verrières. Had a great start from the front row, even from behind him. Comendi, contact with, I believe that was Neil Wagstaff, as huge spillover down through the Verrières. That's the worst case scenario. That is precisely what Onid did not need. As we see there, he was side by side with Neil Wagstaff on the run up towards the Verrières. Things get a little bit snaky as they pass by the cameras. A little bit of contact there. Wagstaff collides with Comendi. Comendi clatters there the 555 of Mark Taylor. I mean, he was sent head over heels in the opening sector there. That is quite a bit of shell shock. And now leading that charge, Rob Appleton from Yuya Oya in third place there, sneaking his way to a podium, is Stinking Rich's Smelly Hippie, the 420 Lamborghini, now third, with Daniel Den Hollander in fourth. Reese Humphries rounds out the top five for Humbel Mercedes. Looking here in the aftermath for that number 8, you can see almost plumb last, as behind him there is his fellow owner driver, the 112 of Oscar Dizzy Oscar. Another casualty in that opening lap. We see these two, you're on that collision course at the Verrières. Comendi and Taylor, they're side by side on the run down the Mistral. With Taylor on the inside, Comendi forced in behind on the run. Oh my word, that was Borgetto. That was Salvatore Borgetto, and he's gone into traffic. But he's narrowly, I think, avoided there collecting any other drivers. Borgetto had persistent troubles with that Ferrari in Brands Hatch. It is quite a horror show to see those problems continue at a track so high speed. See here with Hippie trying to hold off Den Hollander. Had a momentary glance at Oya's second place spot. Couldn't find anything of it over the Finnish talent in second right now. Looking here with Reese Humphries. He's sandwiched in between the two Den Hollanders. He's got Daniel up over his nose. Julian out behind. Behind Julian Den Hollander is Richard Claffey, having got up 3 positions from the race start with the CRT Racing Porsche number 93. Connor Brennan as well with Audi Sport Team Apex is now into the top 10 as well, having surfed his way out of the madness at turns 1 and 2. Now, the drivers were warned it ahead of time not to start going for any heroics into the Verrières, but that is a command that can only be heeded by so many. That got a little bit out of hand between the two Ferraris on that race start. And that looked more like a freak accident than anything that was support a definition as intentional. You see out behind there, O'Doney versus Blank in towards the Virage de la Hotel. Blank's later on the brakes, though, over O'Doney. And O'Doney's forced back in behind. Up front onto the Mistral straight. You can see things are bunching up there between Den Hollander, Claffey and Brennan. Julian Den Hollander right now is in the flight path of the number 93s, in the slipstream and not letting go anytime soon. Connor Brennan is right behind them as well. The two Porsches feeding off each other there with a little bit of light slipstream from out in front from the Mercedes. You can see better of the two on that straightaway has been Richard Claffey because of that slipstream. He now goes side by side from the outside line into the Curve de San. This could end in tears. From behind them, Taylor and Winter. We're side by side with Taylor pulling the same move on Winter that he did on Comendi the lap just gone. Forced back in behind the 919 Claffey. He's in a very, very tough spot here because any kind of critical error is going to force him right in behind not only the Audi, but as you can see behind him there, the BMW, the Porsche and the Ferrari all the way out of that top 10. Up in front. Challenge for the podium then by Daniel Den Hollander, looking for his chances on Smelly Hippie. Reese Humphries settles into a rhythm here from 5th place. Solid points haul coming through for Humbel, much to the chagrin of Onid Racing, whose last surviving member in that top 10 is right here at the head of that field. We see from Rob Appleton, Yuya Oya in 2nd, Hippie 3rd, Den Hollander 4th, Humphries in 5th, Julian Den Hollander in 6th, Claffey 7th, Brennan, Taylor and Winter to the top 10. Right behind them there, a recently besmirched number 5 of Daniel Comendi. That has been disaster for him. We see here for Connor Brennan, tries his luck onto Richard Claffey. He's for the inside at the Virage de la Hotel, then to the outside as they make their way around the second half of that section, then into the Virage du Camp. Still from the long way around, we see the 93 trying his luck there to hold it, but appears to have fallen in behind now as we get onto the long camera shot through the Virage de la Saint-Baume, almost immediately onto the nose there of the approaching 555. Mark Taylor has done remarkably well, given the calamity he faced on lap 1, to come back with this kind of form. We see bunching up into a line of traffic here, 2 abreast from these two, and then from behind them, Comendi is side by side with Matthias Winter. They bump doors on the Mistral. As up in front, it's 3 cars in a slipstream train. That the sort of the back end of it there was for a moment that of Mark Taylor. Now tries to get on the inside of Connor Brennan. He is a man on a mission here. That's 2 positions for the price of 1 as Brennan falls in behind. Mark Taylor now 7th. Up front, Den Hollander continues to pressure Hippie for 3rd. We'll catch on with them in a moment's time, but we see here it has been quite a rowdy bunch at the back of that top 10. 5 cars contesting that current 7th place spot, having recently fell from it then, is this one here, Connor Brennan, in the number 10 Audi Sport Team Apex car. Richard Claffey tries to defend from an approaching Daniel Comendi, who recently got the jump on Claffey's teammate, that being Matthias Winter. Now tries things on for size there with the 93, but bumps doors with him. What was definitely a bit of a brash approach towards turn 13. And along the opening straight we go. Comendi is to that less than advantageous outside line. He'll have to try something brave here if he means to try and get the leg up on the Porsche. Later of the 2 on the brakes and slingshots from around the outside. That is, was not wrong in saying it would take something rather impressive. And that it certainly was. Comendi now 9th. There could be rebuttal, though, by the 93. He is within close enough range here for counter-attack. We'll see it play out over the course of this lap. But going to catch up in front here, the battle for the podium raging on between Daniel Den Hollander and Smelly Hippie. Now, let's go to look on board here with Den Hollander's point of view of things. Shows in the lights. And already, it's worth noting, we burnt through quite a valuable chunk of time. In the pits at the moment is the 199 of Richie Nielsen. That's the teammate of this one, up over the nose of Daniel Den Hollander for the fight on 3rd place. You can see in the top end, he's just got a few more miles an hour to spare over the Lamborghini. The Ferrari, no slouch whatsoever. It is one of the faster ones. Not the fastest. That would be Ford, Lexus and BMW way out wide there. That's the Mercedes of Reese Humphries. That could drop him from the top 5 as Julian Den Hollander takes advantage. Now up into 5th place himself. Puts 3/10 on Humphries as he careened out wide at the Curve de Sang. Meanwhile, Daniel Den Hollander now up onto the podium following that move. 5th place is fight going on at the moment. We can see it's very close, though, for Comendi v Brennan. That recently came to a head just out of Le Busset and the Virage de Bendors. Now, Comendi is up into 8th place. Oyer's in 2nd, so getting a brief look at the analytics here. 2nd from 8th place is a points gap of roughly, looking here, yes, 21 points. This does place, at the moment, Yuya Oya within a definite chance, if he can mirror this performance so far into that 2nd race, and if things do go awry once again for Daniel Comendi, this could very likely lead to his championship being solidified here at the circuit Paul Ricard. But as we can see from Comendi, much like we saw from another driver that he came into arms with on the opening lap incident there, Mark Taylor, these two have been on a rampage ever since their incident. Up in front, Hippie still within half a second of Den Hollander, makes his way through the Virage de la Saint-Baume. You can see still clinging on the coattails of that Ferrari that recently got up past him. Behind him is Julian Den Hollander in a recent 5th place over Reese Humphries. Now, just whilst we've got an opportunity here along the Mistral, let's have a look back again at that opening lap incident. It was catastrophic as they got racing here at the circuit Paul Ricard. You see on the live footage there on interception at the moment is the Lamborghini closing in hot. But just before we go back in with him, let's have a look here, as it was a step out by Wagstaff, then collected Comendi, then absolutely clattered the 555. I mean, that was brutal. Sadly, Hippie could not make much of that interception. From behind, though, looks to be the contrary. Is going the long distance in towards Le Busset. Trying for a switchback here is the number 12 of Reese Humphries. Goes side by side. This could end in tears between himself and Julian Den Hollander. They make contact and then snapping out wide onto the blue zone goes the 919. Rejoins onto the nose there of Mark Taylor. Humphries runs out wide and forfeits position to both. The 199 gets drive through for track limits. That's for Richie Nielsen. So his troubles only continue to mount over the course of the first half of today's first of 2 races. That has been a real struggle. You see here from Richard Claffey now fighting with Connor Brennan. At this time, neither of them yet close enough to challenge Daniel Comendi. Having a look, though, up in front. This has been quite an interesting one. Mark Taylor versus Julian Den Hollander. Now side by side. Taylor on the inside at the very same area where he was collected on lap 1. On the inside, now the outside. And great move there, albeit a little bit of contact to go along with it. You can start to sense here from Julian Den Hollander. He's been knocked around through Sector 3, now into Sector 1 over the course of just about half a lap. And he is starting to boil over a little bit here. We could... Oh, it's even more contact. How much more is this man going to take before he comes back, both arms swinging? I do fear for the drivers around him, because right now Den Hollander is holding wonderful composure when he has been battered 10 bells out of in the last half of a lap. He still holds his position. You can see 5 cars contesting 6th now. As behind Den Hollander is Kemendi, Humphries, Claffey, and Winter at this time. Having a look in here, they're packed in like sardines. With Humphries having recently got the leg up there on Kemendi, there could be counter-attack sighted by the number 5. He is faster than the Mercedes on the Mistral. And this is where things could really, really get ugly here. Making our way up and around the Curb de Sang. Let's get a catch on board with these drivers here, as we do actually just get to see some side-by-side action here from Blank and looking at it there, that's Wagstaff, as it would stand to be the case. They catch up on towards Salvatore Borgetto. Later on with that, we see here with Daniel Kemendi, who's up and ahead of Richard Claffey, still challenging on the Mercedes of Rhys Humphries. Checking in here with Winter, Den Hollander, and you see here from Renault Dolo. I wanted to try and catch on board with Claffey as the one caught sort of right at the front row of this action, or right in the front row ticket seats to the action, more relevantly, as we're on board here to Richard Claffey. Currently contesting locally 8th place. We can see that extends up the order towards what is more realistically 7th, perhaps even a swing at 6th. He's got to fight his own battles here from where he stands, and he's out wide at the very air, so that is confounding things on his efforts to fight 8th place. It could force him to defend for 9th. So many such options available to Richard Claffey at this time, but that Porsche is starting to flag just a little bit for him there. It's not what he wants to see at this time in the race. You can see from behind, looks to be two of the Mercedes cars fighting, and that's Colin Beattie versus Samuel Linton Bell. We'll go to catch on board with Beattie, is the defending of 2 up in front there. That 5-car pack is starting to spread out as this 2-car pack starts to close in. Now, without Mark Burton today, Colin Beattie stands alone for CRT Team Comac. Right now holds off against Samuel Linton Bell. The number 21, he had some troubles in Brands Hatch, but still played a role in a number of very solid battles in round 6. We know he's got the fighting spirit with Mercedes. We'll see what these two can come out with over the course of today's event. But taking a look, as we're now halfway through race 1, it's Rob Appleton from Yuya Oya and then Daniel Den Hollander in 3rd. We saw there an attempt for a move from the outside by Smelly Hippie. He's 4th place at the moment. Mark Taylor having come back up into 5th. And I must say that is a resounding drive by the 555 BMW. Julian Den Hollander in 6th, Rhys Humphries in 7th, behind Daniel Kemendi in 8th, Richard Claffey in 9th, and Matthias Winter rounds out the top 10 from 11th to 20th. We have Beattie, Linton Bell, the two side by side at the moment. So as we just catch back on board to these two, Samuel Linton Bell through the Curb de Garlaban, now through the Virage de la Tour, is now on the inside and ahead of Colin Beattie into 11th. So Beattie 12th, Guy Rayfield in not 18th place, sorry, 13th place. Eduardo Odoni in 14th, Conor Brennan in 15th, Sean Moore 16th, Andre Koch in 17th. You can see, though, is under siege by an attempting to unlap Neil Wagstaff. Right behind in 18th place is Salvatore Borgetto in the Elder Ferrari 488. Right up in front of him then, two of the next generation Ferraris, the 296. Bjorn Lars Blank in 19th, Oscar Dizzy-Oskal in 20th, René Dola on his first race of the season in 21st, Neil Wagstaff in 22nd. See, though, sandwiched in between both old and new Ferraris alike there. He's in a very unfortunate spot. And he had such a strong starting position, but he was the one that got affected hardest of most in that opening lap incident at the Verrières, because he was uneased, and then that was just sort of a domino effect from there on after. You see here with Kemendi, it is absolutely vital then he shift himself to 7th place. He is going to have to put everything into the next 10 minutes if he means to stay within a hopeful chance of the Drivers' Championship, at least to try and carry that torch over towards round 8 of the championship on September 5th when we head to Japan at the Suzuka International Racing Course, current then home of the Japanese Grand Prix. You see, though, stuck in on the dirty air, the Mercedes up over him. Comendi is struggling to find his footing for a leap up to 7th. He's preying on a mistake there, and that might have just been what he needed. But cutting back in onto the racing line, there wasn't a gap wide enough, open for long enough for Comendi to take proper advantage of. Making his way now up and around the Virage Dupont. We'll catch on with him in a moment's time. Hippie on his way down towards the Verrières is really putting some pressure now on Daniel Den Hollander for that podium. You can see the Lamborghini is properly fired up. And when taking a look at the progress over the course of the season for Hippie, it has been a curious one to study. Of course, 5th place in the championship at the moment. He has had, from round 3 towards round 5, has had a series of very unfortunate finishes there. 16th, 19th and 20th have been among his worst results of the season, but flanking it on either side in the opening 2 rounds was a frequent flyer to the top 5, and as of last round at Brands Hatch was back into the top 5, finishing 4th place. So this is much more indicative of the form he entered the season with and now currently has returned to as of Brands Hatch. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can make of it. Of course, he's still hunting down his first podium of the season. Right now, still well within reach with Daniel Den Hollander as it stands, about 9 tenths down in front of him. So he has shed some time, was 4 tenths in the last interval. There is still the chances, at least by the end of today's event, that he could claim upon a podium. He certainly has the pace to match it. We see then Rhys Humphreys side by side and now ahead of Julian Den Hollander, and Den Hollander later onto the brakes and turned around down at the Curb de Sang. The 919 meets the wall head on. A second major incident then, playing a mirror match to the 2021 British Grand Prix incident at the Copse corner. We see then, rather funnily enough, it was also a Mercedes on the inside again, as the two went side by side into the Curb de Sang, turned around over the nose of Rhys Humphreys' car was Julian Den Hollander. And that has played a wonderful note then for Daniel Comendi, because he's now up to 7th place. That brings his chances closer to stay in the fight here. Yuya Oya needed about 21.5 points per race today, one of which he is still actually getting an extra point up on. He's got 61 points coming out of today's event if he finishes where he stands. Comendi is now 6th place with 45 points. So right now, doing the rough maths in my head, that's about, looking at it there, 17 points worth of an advance. So not enough to open the gap up sufficiently to take the championship. And also just doing the maths there, if they are to finish where they stand at the moment, 41 points would be the gap after race 1. When you consider he needs a points gap of 67 by the end of today's event to leave Comendi in the dust for round 8. So things have suddenly gotten very interesting following that incident between Humphreys and Julian Den Hollander, the latter of which I'm told is now in the pit lane. That could be him throwing the towel on race 1. He'll need to stick around for Quali 2. He does get the opportunity to turn this around. As for Humphreys, he's down to 13th place. He's out of that top 10, leaving his teammate Samuel Linton-Bell to collect on 9th. As far as the nearest gap's concerned, we do note one that is close between teammates here, Winter and Claffey of CR Team Racing Porsche. But unlikely we'll see anything too ferocious between the pair. We do know, though, Sean Moore versus Salvatore Borgetto. And just have a glance here. Of course, this is a battle among 2 generations of Ferrari. Borgetto has got the straight line speed, 2 extra cylinders in that 488. Twin-turbo V8 unit versus twin-turbo V6. And you can see just absolutely walks away from Moore's 296. But as we get in towards the corners here, where stability has been an all-time concern for the 51, Moore could have the leg up once again. Out in front, we see a fight going on now for 12th. Rayfield versus Humphreys. A very eventful start then to round 7 of the championship. One that has rather curiously not done a great deal to the dealings of the championship right now. It is Oya still to lead, but that gap isn't by a large enough margin to secure the championship. He's going to need to put an additional 26 points into the next race to come out on top with the championship. Needs 67 points worth of a lead over Matthias Winter. Not over Matthias Winter, sorry, Daniel Kimendi. I was looking here for Matthias Winter because that gap is starting to come down between himself and Richard Claffey. Meanwhile, we see here, and this is certainly one to go and watch on with. Let's go to locate the Lamborghini in hot pursuit of third place on board to the 420. On with Hippie. You can see, though, hemorrhages distance as the Ferrari actually gets a little bit of slip angle through the curve de Sang. And this is absolutely razor thin between the duo at the moment on the battle of the last of them podium positions. 4.5 minutes left to go here on race 1. Hippie is not quite finished in his pursuit of his first podium in Season 2. His best result is the one you're seeing at the moment, 4th place. He is packing in all amount of pressure on Den Hollander to force a mistake out of the 818, round 5's race winner, mind you. And I must say, it has been wonderful to see this return to form. Hang on just one moment before we get in towards the talks on the 420. Yellow flags are out for the number 8, Neil Wagstaff, in trouble at Le Busset, I believe that is there. We also note a car going slow off of pit exit. That is the number 81. In a curious development. Is that the number 81? Yes, it is. That is René Dola in 22nd. The 919 is, I'm told, currently held in the pit lane. A drive-through penalty has reached that of Reese Humphries, so his prospects in today's event have only gotten more sour over the course of race 1. Let's go to catch on board, though, with Hippie versus Hollander. So back onto the conversation surrounding the 420 at the moment. I would say it's been great to see this end to this bit of a depressive spell in the middle of the championship where he was routinely out of that top 15. It was quite a lot of trouble, as mentioned before, for Smelly Hippie, but now that he's back in on those top 5 racing forms, we saw the beginning of that second chapter for him in Brands Hatch. You can see he has got a lot of fire beneath him at this time, making his way around the curve de Sang, and it's so thrilling to see how close these two are willing to push down through one of the highest speed sections of the track. And I would say definitely keep an eye out for these two on the run in towards race 2, because if they can race this well in race 1, they already cut their teeth on this track today. They now know each other's limits. They are bound to push them over race 2 later on. Before that, there will be quali 2. Before that, we still have to conclude race 1, of which is, I believe, looking from the 153's point of view out in front, about to enter its possible last lap. We'll see, though. It's about 2 minutes 4 seconds, so if he really hammers down here, there could be another lap to come. We are looking then, as far as lap time's concerned, at the penultimate lap of race 1. And on to it goes the 420 and the 818 in their continued strife for 3rd place. Elsewhere then, it's a 3.3 second lead from Oyer to Appleton. Appleton looking to go double on the trot here, following his maiden victory in Brands Hatch. Oned Racing looking to set a very strong precedent for this latter part of the championship. It is certainly going to be interesting if we do come back to work with the folks here at the Continental Racing League over Season 3. What could come of Oned Racing's progress, this recent expansion with the introduction of Rob Appleton and Neil Wagstaff, albeit we've not got to see much of Wagstaff today as he was an early casualty in race 1. We'll hopefully get to see more in race 2. Has been something to behold. Right now on his penultimate lap, it is certainly a case here that Appleton could go for a hat-trick. He certainly has the pace to match it. Watching back in then on the fight for 3rd. And once again on closing distance on that battle for 3rd place, you can see covering the inside off is the number 818. And the moment that he comes out of that slipstream, Hippie loses so much ground off to Den Hollander. Up and around the run of Le Busset. They get one more shot at things here by the looks of it. There's 30 seconds left to go. Let's go to catch on board in just a moment's time here as they make their way out through the Virage de Bendor now. Cutting away from the fight on 3rd place, just to quickly glance in with Rob Appleton, who skims only a few seconds over the session timer to get one more lap underway here in race 1 of 2. Down to the line he goes to start that final flying lap. And now back in with the battle for P3. It's one that's presided over our screens for the greater part of race 1 and has been quite the exciting duel between these two at this time. We also see very close to each other, but not necessarily fighting to the same degree. Are the two CRT Racing Porsches, Richard Claffey and Matthias Winter. Claffey runs deep at the Virage du Pont. That could invite in Winter, but it also invites in Samuel Linton-Bell in the number 21. Out behind, Colin Beattie fights with Eduardo Odoni for the last of the top 10 positions. Following here with Hippie v Hollander, and this has been definitely one of the more exciting points of race one, following, of course, what has been calamity on the race start. Very rare is it we see it out of all circuits, the circuit Paul Ricard, especially at the Verrières. I was expecting to see that more at the Curve de Sang. It was quite a surprise how late it became in the race before we actually had an incident there. That was between Rhys Humphries and Julian Den Hollander. But I think, rather crucially here for Daniel Den Hollander, as the surviving of two, he has got just enough distance on the Mistral to keep Smelly Hippie at bay. He's about half a second out. And by the time they get in towards the Curve de Sang, that Lamborghini's not going to have many places to go. So we'll go and catch on board with him in a moment's time. But let's go to look in with the Ferrari leading the charge at the moment, the 153s. We do just get a brief glimpse there from Daniel Den Hollander's point of view of things, but making our way on to the number 153, looking to collect on his second victory in a row, following his first in Brands Hatch. A brilliant performance there, not a foot wrong today here in race 1 of 2 for Rob Appleton and Onid Racing, making their way down to the Virage de la Tour, now to the Virage du Pont, as the checkered flag looms just around the last corner here, down to the line at the end of race 1 here on round 7. Another win under the belt of Rob Appleton. He wins here in the circuit Paul Ricard. And a brilliant performance to go along with it there for Appleton. Flawless here in France. And he still has one more race to play for, so he could take the full shebang of things here. With race 2 and quali 2 still around the corner, could we be looking at a Grand Slam from Rob Appleton? He's led through qualifying. He's led every lap of today's race. Could he do it again to do the unthinkable? Oya second, Den Hollander third, Hippie fourth by just over half a second, Taylor to a resounding P5, Kemendi sixth, Winter in seventh, Linton-Bell in eighth, Claffey ninth, and Beattie in the top 10. By the looks of it there, across the line, the 311, Colin Beattie, last of the top 10 positions. We do see to the line there, just the last of our battles wrapping up from in the top 15, Conor Brennan versus Guy Rayfield. Brennan 12th, Rayfield in 13th, Borgetto to 14th. That is a curiosity considering how prominent his struggles were in Brands Hatch last week. The 488 turns his chances around. The 51 is 14th for the end of today's race. Rhys Humphries fights with Bjorn Lars Blank to the line. Sean Moore up in front makes 17th. Andre Koch to 16th. Wagstaff to 20th. Dola to 21st. Down to the line then Blank and Humphries 18th and 19th. A DNF then for Julian Den Hollander, and I don't believe he's alone on that prospect either, because we did start, if memory serves rightly, with 23 cars. We're down to 22, technically 21, to have seen the checkered flag so far. But the winner of race 1, Rob Appleton, in the 153, his second win of the season in a row. And so, as we wait then for the final result to come on through, fastest lap for Yuya Oya gives him currently the WOD of 61 points over the current points haul from Daniel Kemendi at P6. That's 45 points, as we've done the maths from before. That leaves the points gap right now, and this is under preliminary calculations before any penalties or so on and so forth. Right now, that points gap between the pair of them is 41. Yuya Oya needs to advance that by 26 to secure the championship, meaning he'll need another podium finish here. Let's say, for example, he gets second place again. He's going to need, just having a quick glance at it there, he's going to need Kemendi to finish at the back of the top 10 with no fastest lap. That's the current expectation. So if Kemendi can finish in the top 10, regardless, actually having a look here, best case scenario for Oya would be, of course, first place as we wait for the start of qualifying 2. So just bear with us whilst we head the calculations out there, as we do wait to see the final marker on race 1. Coming up around the corner is 20 minutes of qualifying at quali 2 to set the stage for race 2 here in the circuit Paul Ricard. Your winner is Rob Appleton. Yuya Oya takes the fastest lap for Audi Sport Team Apex, and there is the final result on your left-hand side. Rob Appleton wins in race 1, Oya second, Daniel Den Hollander in third, Smelly Hippie fourth, Mark Taylor in fifth, Daniel Kemendi in sixth, with Matthias Winter in seventh, Samuel Linton-Bell in eighth, Richard Claffey in 9th. Colin Beattie rounds out the top 10 from 11th to 20th. Then we have O'Doney, Brennan, Rayfield, Borgetto, Dizzy Oskell, Cock, Moore, Blank, Humphreys, and Wagstaff. 21st, then we find that of René Dola, Julian Den Hollander, and Richie Nielsen were both DNFs over the course of race 1. So let's say, for example, for Oya, it is a best case scenario and he's able to come home with a race win today. And say it also comes with a fastest lap along with it. He is going to need, at the best of times, Comendi to finish right now as it stands in 8th. 8th or below. So that's your current margins. If Oya can lead the next race, coming in through the first couple of laps over Rob Appleton, Daniel Comendi has to finish 7th or above to continue the fight into Suzuka. Otherwise, that'll be Oya's championship. Now, we'll review the odds based on where actually Oya places in qualifying 2, of which is about to start in a moment's time. But what a session it's been so far. And the real chances for Rob Appleton to come out on top of things here with a Grand Slam. He's led qualifying. He's led race 1. He could still do it again here in quali 2 and race 2. As now, we're about to find out. Quali 2 underway, 20 minutes on the clock. And it's quiet in the paddock. Remarkably quiet. The low hum of V6s now springs to life, and joining them there, the sonorous cry of a flat 6, as it looks to be the case here, where Julian Den Hollander will be first out among the fray. Of course, was a rotten turn of events for him in today's race. Now, we would take a look back on the replays, but as mentioned before, we can't do that during qualifying because it will reset the timing systems, but he was turned around by Rhys Humphreys at the Curve de Sang during their battle earlier in race 1. He ended up becoming one of the 2 DNFs out of race 1. Behind him is Rob Appleton and Oscar Dizzy Oskell, so Oned Racing flanking the number 919 at this time. Now, if we take a look in towards the end of Quali 1, this will give us a fair understanding of what to expect on the run into Quali 2. So, your predicted top 10 as it stands right now: Appleton, Oya, Wagstaff, Taylor, Comendi, Hippie, Den Hollander, that being Daniel Den Hollander, Brennan, Linton Bell, and Humphreys. Ferrari still expected to be in that majority. Last qualifying session held 40% of the top 10. Porsche could have a chance here. We'll see what Julian Den Hollander can do. In spite of a down-and-out result out of race 1, there is still the hope in the 919 for a solid result in today's event. So, making our way onto the first of our flyers, with Rob Appleton now out in front of Julian Den Hollander. Let's go to catch on board to, so far, the 2-time race winner. On board to Rob Appleton, in through to the very airs. He laid in a very strong precedent at the start of qualifying, was able to break the glass ceiling on multiple occasions there to take pole position away from Yuya Oya. Making our way up and around the Virage to the hotel, into the Virage du Camp. Oned Racing lost several drivers from that top 10 in the opening incident as well. It was detrimental for them. That could very likely bring about the possibility of an interception by Humbell. Now, it was worth noting that Rhys Humphreys did fall in quite far behind following an incident in the latter half of race 1 of 2. So that one still remains up in arms. We haven't done the calculations on that one just yet. We'll get those back to you for the season finale on September 5th. But I think it could still be quite an interesting end-of-season battle for the team's championship. Oned has demonstrated, at least on track at the moment, this indomitable stride after the season break here. And spearheading their most recent advances has been this one. He's sort of become the poster boy of the Oned Racing team in Continental Racing League's Season 2 Teams Championship, because no other driver from their lineup so far has taken a win, bar this one. With his opening win in Brands Hatch, another one today, there still presents the chance for a hat-trick of race wins for Rob Appleton on what I should note as well has been so far, since his debut, this is his third appearance to this championship this season. First of the times in then 154.112, so starting things off solid for Appleton. Dizzy Oskal to second, so Onid hold things 1-2 at the moment, but that will quickly shift with the approach of the next couple of cars. Next one to the line is the number 11. That's Yuya Oya, who right now, as we mentioned before, does have the chance of a championship tonight, but he is going to need to teeter on some very, very uneasy odds away from the number 5 of Daniel Comendi. Oya to second. Number 8 from behind. Neil Wagstaff now to third. Now approaching is the 818. That'll be for Daniel Den Hollander to the line. And across the line he goes, sadly, to no time there. The next will be Colin Beattie of CRT Team Comac. Across the line, does set a valid time there. 5th place, 2.3 seconds off the beat, but still on to the charts regardless. That could be 6th place in a moment's time, because approaching is the 46, Sean Moore. Across the line, Beattie will stay 5th because there's no valid time set there from Moore. The number 5 is nearest. Now from behind, that'll be Daniel Comendi. What's his first time going to look like? Nothing at the moment. And this has been a very curious start to Quali 2 here. You'd think in the aftermath of race 1, these drivers want to have a bit more of a natural feel of the track. There'll be a lot more times coming in, but it has been quite slow on the uptake. Across the line then, the Audi of Connor Brennan now makes the 6th time of today's session. 3.068 seconds away. Number 420 across the line to start a flyer, and that was one of the star drivers out of race 1 in his brilliant fight with Daniel Den Hollander. Those two really did steal away the show from the front row, and it was Smelly Hippie here, and the number 420, the one on interception, but sadly couldn't make anything of it of a podium. Still equalises on his best result of the season, 4th place in race 1. I would absolutely say, though, there is the chances in tonight's event, if he can get himself into the mix of things on that opening lap, like what happened in race 1. There's nothing to disprove that he couldn't take home a podium, at least by the end of the season. That's certainly one to think about. That's some food for thought. Julian Den Hollander to 4th place now and puts himself 23 thousandths up the road off of Oscar Dizzy Oskal. The Onid Racing number 112, number 11 nearby. Here's Oya. Bear in mind, it's worth noting he's challenged for pole position many a time. He does close on distance there, but stays in 2nd. Number 8 is nearest. That'll be for Wagstaff. And he goes up to the fastest time there, so what a turnaround for Neil Wagstaff. Was slammed out of race 1. Now finds himself on pole position, 87 thousandths over his teammate. This could be a very curious turn of events. Now looking at those conditions once again, it is 9 degrees. Fast conditions, we're told, but it is going to be a bit of a struggle to put heat in those tyres for these drivers at the moment. Number 46 across the line, Moore to 8th ahead of Brennan. And already some nearly 10 minutes into the session. We're 7 minutes through at the moment. Number 5 was nearest. That being Comendi. Again, no time set for the Ferrari. It does raise many an alarm bell here for Comendi because he absolutely, and I cannot stress this point enough, absolutely needs to lock in on qualifying, because this could spell an end to his championship hopes. He can't hope to throw the towel in just now. He comes back into the pit, so hopefully some refresh and resolve coming the way of Daniel Comendi. In recent developments, though, Daniel Den Hollander is 5th. Eduardo Odoni is now 6th place ahead of Julian Den Hollander. And Smelly Hippie is now up into that top 5. He's 4th place behind Yuya Oya. But it's an Onid Racing 1-2 at the moment between Rob Appleton in 2nd and Neil Wagstaff heading the charge now. But now, as we just see it across the line, a flip of the heads there as Appleton is back on top. The old switcheroo between the two Ferraris at Onid Racing, but these two, again, looking for a strong start. It was close to the possibilities of an Onid 1-2 start in race 1. Yuya Oya had his own word to say on that one, placing 2nd in Quali 1. We'll leave you on board with Wagstaff here. Could there be a return to the fastest time? Sadly, on that last lap, no, there could not. 205 thousandths is the remaining margin then that stays between Appleton and Wagstaff after that last lap just gone, as we head up closer to the second half of Quali 2 today. The 420, I'm told, has just come back into the pits following a spin at the Curb de Sang. And down to the line a moment from now. Looks to be, I want to say it was the 92, but no, I was mistaken there. It was in fact just the number 9, and that is Bjorn Lars Blank. Number 10 is nearby. Is that the number 10? Yes, in fact it is the number 10. That being Connor Brennan of Audi Sport Team Apex, making his way to the line. So he was just recently squeezed from the top 10. Could he find a chance to get back into the swing of things? Yes, he can. Up over Sean Moore now to 10th. 2.265 seconds away from pole position. And the number 656 across the line, O'Doney to 7th. That might actually be where he remains over the course of that last lap. I do seem to recall his last one gave him 7th place. He's 0.06 of a second from the third row. Currently then, the 112 of Oscar Dizzy-Oscar marks 6th place. That's the target for Eduardo O'Doney. Number 51 is nearest. And that was for Salvatore Borgetto. A surprising turn of events there for Borgetto over race 1. He did demonstrate quite a lot of top end in that number 51. We are just told Samuel Linton-Bell has been disqualified for driving in the wrong direction. Now, I didn't quite catch what spurred that on, whether or not it was from in the pit lane, whether or not it was an attempt to turn himself back around. But what I do know of is drivers try to take the shorter version of the circuit Paul Ricard in efforts to try and skip part of the outlap. But that will disqualify you if you do. So if that's what he's done, then I can't say I'm too surprised, because when given the opportunity to slice off half the amount of time wasted in an outlap, I'm sure many drivers would take the chance. That's not gone well for the 21, regardless of what happened to give him that disqualification. He is now starting plumb last, is the bottom line. You know, Wagstaff closes the gap to 75 thousandths of a second. The two are 4 tenths clear over Yuya Oya, currently third. Nearest is the 46. So we see here Sean Moore goes up and ahead of Salvatore Borgetto, now to 11th place. Borgetto now falling to the back of the 6th row. It is still nonetheless impressive to see what he's been able to do with what is very abundantly clear, as we just see catching on with him now, was a very troublesome Ferrari 488. 656 nearby, so here's O'Doney. Could he challenge 6th place? Needs 0.06 of a second, mind you. And yes, he can. Up and ahead of Oscar Dizzy-Oscar. And by looks of it there, puts some nearly 0.3 tenths of a second over Dizzy-Oscar's time. So 6th place now for the 656. As we head on into the last 8.5 minutes of qualifying today. And still what has been quite a growing concern, I'd say, has been the lack of a time on the chart so far for Daniel Comendi, the championship challenger against Yuya Oya. We did actually get some clarification just as we now get to see the first of the valid flyers from Comendi, and that was from Samuel Linton-Bell. So it was not an accident, nothing accidental in nature as to how he's disqualified himself. He's decided of his own volition to start from the back. Now, we have seen this strategy played out by multiple drivers over the years. I think the most prominent among them have been what we dub here on TRTN the back row bandits. As a collective of drivers we've seen in multiple championships now. It's all the same drivers, and among them John O'Driscoll, Kieran Rodd, Alan Alexander, and most recently Carlos Dish as well. Primarily a Euro Titans endurance assortment of drivers doing that, but we now get to see it executed here by one not involved in that ecosystem entirely. Samuel Linton-Bell of Humbell Racing Mercedes, number 21, will start in 22nd. Meanwhile, updates from the front line. Oya's into another flyer. The 153 approaches the line. Can he raise the bar on his fastest time being the real question? As he crosses the line there, he stays 75 thousandths in the clear. And just had to translate the message from Pedro Lopo in chat. You can reach us via our Discord. I believe we're in the same servers. We'll get the message request and we'll have a chat with you. Alternatively, we can reach out to you after the event if that's what you would prefer. Apologies, I'm not able to respond in text there. I don't speak Portuguese. Nearest to the line then will be, by looks of it, the number 93. So let's get a catch on with the Porsche of Richard Claffey. Across the line, by looks of it, onto his first valid flyer, and that it is. 12th place there for Claffey. His teammate Matthias Winter is down in 16th at this time. Number 92, though, is nearby. So here comes Winter. Could we see a bump up into the top 15 here for Matthias Winter? Across the line, yes, he can. Up and ahead of Salvatore Borgetto. Now to 15th, and you can see between these two, 32 thousandths of a second now for control of 15th place. That's on the 8th row of the grid at the moment. Up at the front, it is still an owned 1-2 here from Appleton and Wagstaff. Oya 3rd, Den Hollander 4th, Kemendi in 5th. This is much more close for comfort than by Daniel Kemendi. This is exactly where he needs Oya to be. He's outside of the podium, and he's closer to Kemendi than he is right now to the lead of that soon-to-be second race. Connor Brennan, teammate of Yuya Oya at Audi Sport Team Apex, now up into the top 10 once again. The number 10 is now 9th over Oscar Dizzy-Oskel and Julian Den Hollander. Tucks in there, though, by about 350 thousandths. No, definitely much, 250 thousandths of a second in behind Eduardo Odoni. So 4 minutes left to go in today's session, and the bar has been raised by Rob Appleton. It was 75 thousandths a time ago there. Now it's 263 thousandths, 153.632. The new fastest lap by the 153, hunting down a Grand Slam here at the circuit Paul Ricard. Actually, I should just quickly check here out of free practice. Yes, so what we are definitely looking at here, fastest in free practice, fastest in quali 1. Winner of race 1, so far, fastest in quali 2. If he wins race 2, Rob Appleton will be the first driver this season to take a full Grand Slam, if I'm not mistaken. That definitely looks likely here for the 153. If it's not the first time a driver has done a Grand Slam, it is certainly looking to be the first time a driver has done it on a double race. So our last double race of the season was back on round 2 at the championship, where in which it saw 2 different wins by Mark Burton and Carlos Disch. Appleton now having faced down his second win of the season, one that stands end on end to his first in Brands Hatch. There is a very, very real chance for race win number 3 if he's leading with form like this. He's got 3 minutes left to go, and he's already on an improvement in Sector 1, so he could even raise this north of 0.3 of a second. Wagstaff to the line. Could he find an improvement? Sadly, not this time around. Yuya Oya makes 3rd. Den Hollander 4th. Humphreys now into 5th. So a solid turn there for the number 12. He was down and out of race 1 following a number of calamities there. Humble Racing Mercedes now back up into that top 10. Moreover, he's in a confident P5. He's sandwiched between the 2 Ferraris of Kemendi and Den Hollander. And as I said, that Kemendi now comes up and ahead by, and this is certainly looking to be one of the closest margins, 3 thousandths of a second for 5th place. Kemendi throwing absolutely everything he can now into this performance, knowing this is make or break. A solid performance now in race 2 could be what allows him to continue to fight for the championship lead in Suzuka. Right now, their points gap is 41 out of race 1. And it needs to be 67 by the end of today's event for Yuya Oya to become champion. From where they stand at the moment, a finish like this, 3rd and 5th, would not be tenable to conclude his championship. It would lead to things spilling over into the season finale on September 5th. If you're catching us for more action, it'll come up tomorrow at 6:30 PM BST as we go live for the second round of Season 7 of the NLRL Sunday League. It was a brilliant season opener, one that saw double wins for Carlos Dietz. You can catch our reports of which on the exclusive racing website under the news section. That's at www.exclusiveracing.com/news. Under the title, NLRL, Dietz claims double win in Season 7 premiere. There'll be another race report coming up into the next week following round 2 of the NLRL Sunday League. We'll be hoping to keep a tracker on that over the course of Season 7 in what is looking to be a very exciting collaboration between us and the exclusive racing group, so to speak, as we become their official media partner. Kemendi's out wide, though, off the exit here of the Garage de Pandore. This is not looking grand for him here. He is striving for a possible P4, but he's got to make, as you can see here, just over 0.2 of a second worth of time. And that Ferrari, he's giving it absolutely everything right now, and he falls in behind Den Hollander at this time. There's 3 other Ferraris able to get more out of the 296 today. This is Kemendi's last shot for anything north of P5. We'll see how he gets on over the course of this lap. I believe the 112 is across the line from behind. That's Oscar Dizzy-Oscar into 11th there, as he is 15 thousandths of a second ahead of Eduardo Odoni on the 6th row. Number 11 nearby. Here comes Oya. He needs about 0.3 here. It is quite a distance to cover for Oya if he means to come up into another front row start. Can he make anything of it? Across the line, just as he gets met there by the checkered flag at the end of this session, he stays in 3rd. So Onid has locked out the front row. Appleton and Wagstaff. That is masterclass there from Onid Racing Ferrari on the second half of their endeavours here in France. Across the line a moment ago as well was Smelly Hippie to 7th. So a respectable position for him to be in. He'll still be within attacking distance of the top 5 on the race start. He'll be tucked in just behind Daniel Kemendi in P5 at the moment. That's if Kemendi can't shove to 4th. We'll wait to see it. Number 46 being Sean Moore across the line at the end of the session makes 14th. The 656 is next along with him. So Eduardo Odoni currently 12th. In today's session, can he find anything indicative of a top 10? Doesn't need too much a margin to find it, mind you. Down to the line he goes. And stays in 12th place. Would have needed about, I think, 46 thousandths of a second there is roughly the margin he would have needed on Julian Den Hollander to come up into that top 10. So very, very close between these 3, between Porsche, Ford and Ferrari. 919 is nearest, so here is Julian Den Hollander on his way from the Virage Dupont. Down to the line we go. Den Hollander stays in 10th place. From behind him approaches the number 5, Daniel Kemendi. Could he have a shot at P4? Across the line, he'll stay in 5th. And from behind him was the number 51, Salvatore Borgetto, to 17th in his last lap here in Quali 2. Rob Appleton, back-to-back pole positions here in France. And there is a very real possibility, as mentioned several times already, and we'll probably mention it several times more, of a Grand Slam in this double-header event. While they might not have the chances, by looks of things right now, to walk away with a Drivers' Championship, Rob Appleton can certainly add that one to the trophy cabinet if he can pull this off. But he still has 25 minutes of racing ahead of him as we head up now away from the last qualifying session, of which Appleton sees pole position. And as we take a look in here to the regs to head up into the last 25 minutes of racing before he can claim upon that accolade. But so far has put in a very impressive second qualifying session in contention here in the circuit, Paul Ricard. And you'll now await the arrival of the grid. It'll be not a particularly long amount of time to wait here. We'll get a look at that grid in a moment's time. But it's an Onid Racing Ferrari front row lockout, much to the chagrin of current championship leader Yuya Oya with Audi Sport Team Apex. That's great news, though, for Daniel Kemendi, because it denies Oya higher positions and leaves the Audi closer to Kemendi. Right now, actually, as it stands, Kemendi will back up directly behind Yuya Oya on that starting grid, so he could definitely get the charge on that Audi, as you can now see them form up on the grid. A minute and a half before the formation lap, and we'll bring up the rules on these manual formation laps once again when we get on into it. But before we do, it's Rob Appleton on pole position here for race 2 of round 7 of the Continental Racing League Teams Championship Season 2. Neil Wagstaff makes it an Onid Racing front row with Yuya Oya in third, Daniel Den Hollander in fourth place, Daniel Kimendi rounds out the top five, with Rhys Humphries in sixth, Smelly Hippie in seventh, Guy Rayfield in eighth, Connor Brennan in ninth, and Julian Den Hollander rounds out the top 10. Then from 11th to 20th, we have Dizzy Oskal, O'Doney, Winter, Moore, Beattie, Claffey, Borgetto, Blank, Cock, and Dola. 21st for Mark Taylor, and 22nd by his own volition for Samuel Linton Bell. We're on to the number 153 in a few seconds' time then, as we'll be given the 30-second warning. The drivers will fire their engines up. 22 cars in attendance, 11 on either side of which for the second and last race of round 7. On with the 153.
30 seconds.
Right now, there's not a particularly great deal of things we can say for Appleton's performance that hasn't already been demonstrated here at the circuit, Paul Ricard. So there's not really a lot of advice we can offer. It seems that he knows what he's doing, and our input would just be meaningless. Right now, it's do exactly what he did in race 1, and there'll be no further troubles. But there is definitely much to be considered for Neil Wagstaff, because we really didn't get to see a lot of what he was capable of in the long term over race 1. He was taken out very, very early into that race. You can make the argument of so many on the field. The ones to watch, though, certainly include Appleton and Wagstaff. I'd also say as well, keep an eye out for the 420 of Smelly Hippie, and even further down the line, keep an eye out there for that of Mark Taylor, starting down in 21st, because he had such a turnaround drive, as he was one of the major casualties in that opening lap incident. He was clattered through turn 1 and 2 by an out-of-control Ferrari, but was able to turn that one around into a very respectable position in the immediate short term. Now, of course, back on the discussion of the formation lap rules, one of the most unique aspects of this championship are the non-UI formation laps. It's all manually driven by these cars at the moment, so they have to maintain a speed anywhere between 90 and 100 Ks. That's 55 to 62 miles per hour. They all have to remember their starting positions. They have to take a lot of note there of where the car's positioned in proportion to everybody else on the grid. And they've got to judge that formation speed by eye. And it was flawless in the last race, albeit, of course, spilled over into a huge incident at turn 1. But as far as the start went, there was no trouble. To make our way onto the Mistral straight, we see there almost collecting himself into the arm codes. It was a very aggressive tyre warming strategy by the Audi. And taking a look just over our shoulder there at what the temperature regs are looking like, you can see exactly for what reason that is. It's 9 degrees right now, track and ambient, so really not a lot of aid there on the track surface to build heat in these Pirellis for this run into a 25-minute sprint race. So you can see why that justified these big sweeping runs there side to side from the Audi, just trying to put any kind of heat now in these Pirellis. It could get rather sketchy on that race start once again. Now, hopefully the drivers will have learned their lesson from race 1. We can see the 818 giving a light show to Neil Wagstaff. That's Daniel Den Hollander, winner of round 5 of the championship. Right now, Rob Appleton has yet to lose since round 6. Could this be the time where it all changes, or could we be looking at a grand slam in the double sprint here at Paul Ricard? This could be the makings of something truly, truly unmistakable from Owned Racing's number 153, Rob Appleton. He's a marked man on this grid then, with 21 cars packing up behind him, 22 cars in attendance here as we head up in towards the start of race 2 of round 7 of season 2 of the Continental Racing League Teams Championship. 22 cars in attendance, 11 on either side of which we're down 1 car from race 1, but regardless, down to the line, the drivers will be given the all clear for the second and last time tonight. We are Green and Racing here at the circuit. Paul Ricard at a brilliant start from the front row, right off the bat there between the 2 Owned Racing Ferraris. Heading up in towards the Verrières. Hopefully no drama this time around. We do see nearly 3 abreast there from the row behind as they head up in through turn 1. Contact between Yuya Oya and I believe that was, yes, Neil Wagstaff. As we see the aftermath collects also that of Daniel Den Hollander. The cameras were not the most persuasive in showing us all of the detail. You can see how it all started. Out wide, collects there, then spins around. And that also brings in so many others into the mix as now spilling out through the very airs. Immediate trouble for Daniel Den Hollander. Up in front, though, Rob Appleton leads the charge from Neil Wagstaff. Reese Humphries now to third with Humbell Racing Mercedes. Behind them is Daniel Comendi. And this has been quite the turn of fortune for Comendi because now he's got the opportunity with Yuya Oya all the way down in 20th to go on the offensive. Looking at the points distribution right about now here, of course, it's 41 points as of calculations from the exit of round 7, race 1. If Comendi finishes 4th and Oya finishes in 20th, right now, just having a quick glance, that is a points gap of about, looking here, 39 points. So that would bring that points gap down to 2 in lieu of the last round at Suzuka. This has been a Hail Mary solution for Daniel Comendi because his chances to fight for a championship have just reignited. I have never seen a championship swing quite like that. We'll see if that is the way it will stay in the next 23 minutes because what a sudden shock to the system this start has been. And it was drama again at the very end. Some drivers just will not heed the warnings of race control. They pleaded and pleaded. No heroics in Verrières. Sadly, though, you can take the driver out of the fight, but you can't take the fight out of the driver. Reese Humphries going on the offensive then alongside Daniel Comendi as Neil Wagstaff looks to be swallowed up by the Mercedes. He gets a good exit, though, from Verrières, so puts a bit of breathing space between himself and the Humbell number 12. We see the number 5 now pressing for advantage here at P3, heading up in towards the Virage de la Hotel, then the Virage du Camp, but falls back in behind Reese Humphries. Behind him is Connor Brennan, now taking up the slack of his fallen teammate, Yuya Oya, who I am now told is ahead of both the Den Hollanders, and is now, as I'm seeing it here, in fact 17th, as he's also got the leg up there on Bjorn Lars Blank in the number 9 car. Looking here as action continues to spill. Now, it was a very ugly start for many, and we see right now, furthest up the order, outside of that podium fight, appears to be one here between Eduardo Odoni and Guy Rayfield, the two prime benefactors of that opening incident, because it's thrust both of them into that top 10. Now with the chances to fight for P6, McLaren versus that of Ford. Up in front, we did get a very brief glimpse at the Comendi v Humphries fight. Comendi now ahead of Humphries, and looking in here with Odoni around the outside, then swings high over Guy Rayfield. Behind him, Oscar Dizzy Oscar tries to defend away from Richard Claffey, left the door open, and it's contact, turned around. Goes the 1-1-2. Does he collect anyone else in the process? As of right now, doesn't appear to be the case on the live footage to the bottom right, though you can see the 1-1-2 is held at standstill because he's waiting for the rest of the grid to get out by him. Turned around there by the 93. You could make the argument, was there any space left for the 93? At the same time, the 1-1-2 could have come up over his nose. That has not gone well, though. Oscar Dizzy Oscar relegated from the top 10. Neil Wagstaff has the fastest lap at the moment, as right now the re-engagement of that fight for third is back on the cards. Humphries v Comendi, side by side to the Verrières. Last of the late breakers there is Daniel Comendi to defend his newfound P3 in what has been definitely a stroke of solid luck here for the number 5. Meanwhile, for Rayfield, he has got the pressing threat of Richard Claffey behind him, having recently acquired 8th. Out behind, we can see Samuel Linton Bell. He's starting from the back, I'd like to point out. He's up 10 positions, looking at 11, as now he's on the inside of Sean Moore. Up and ahead goes Linton Bell. You cannot deny the progress he's made so far. And as for Mark Taylor, you can see he's not too far off the trail either. The BMW is in that huge swarm of cars piling down through to the Mistral from the Virage de la Sainte-Baume. Right behind him is Yuya Oya. These two will be on much the similar campaign here, trying to carve their way up through the field. But they both hail from varying circumstance. In the slipstream of Sean Moore's number 46 Ferrari, the BMW and the Audi are in hot pursuit. Right behind them as well, it's worth noting, is Daniel and Julian Den Hollander, as well as Colin Beattie. You see, oh, spill over there at the Curb de Sang. Who was that with? It was the number 11. Yuya Oya finds even more trouble at the Curb de Sang. It is bedlam for the Finn as he's head over heels. Trying to get a look in there, I believe. Was it the number 818 that collected him? Yes, it was. Daniel Den Hollander collides with Yuya Oya in a recent spat down at the Curb de Sang. We're back in the green flag conditions, but it has been a nightmare here in France for Yuya Oya. His championship lead could be quelled in the stroke of one race. Looking here for Hippie. Has got his chances for 8th place on Richard Claffey at the moment. The number 93 holds his position for the run-up into the Verrières. The Lamborghini has been very, very sharp over the course of race 1 and has used the best of his newfound circumstances to get what he can out of today's event. This has been a real shock there for Yuya Oya. It's worth noting on the run-up towards tonight's event, Oya had a 85% podium rate. This is about to be his, by looks of things here, his second time ever this season where he's finished out of the podium. The last of which was in round 2, where in one of those 2 races he finished in P6. This is a far cry of where he needs to be at the moment. The drop point system is going to be helping him out a tad here to run away what could be a very sour turn of results for him. But a lot of that is left up into fate at the moment. Rob Appleton leads by 1.7 seconds over Neil Wagstaff. He takes the fastest lap with him in the last lap. 1:54.6. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a Grand Slam, is it a prerequisite? I think it is a prerequisite that you have to have the fastest lap, so it might not be a full Grand Slam. I'm not really sure what other label to give it, though. It's maybe a sizable slam then, if it's not grand. It's a Grand Slam in my eyes, if he's able to take home the race win today. Meanwhile, for Hippie v Claffey, that rages on for 8th place. Further down the line is BD versus Moore versus Den Hollander. Up in front is Taylor versus Linton Bell. That's recently come to a head there for 11th, with Linton Bell behind Mark Taylor. 555 trying to hold off the number 21 as he finds himself up into 11th. Now, he has a very, very healthy chance of seeing 10th place by the end of today's race. We're already looking here, coming up onto about 8 minutes in on race 2. There is definitely the chances for him. We see with Claffey now fighting with, as it stands here, Guy Rayfield. And that's got to catch on board with the 93 because he's got a very unique angle on things at the moment. Just quickly seeing there, the 46. Fighting with Colin Beattie and Julian Den Hollander. Now, that is a scary ensemble to go toe-to-toe with. Mercedes, Porsche, and Ferrari. Let's go to catch in with that of Richard Claffey. You can see he's got the slipstream here on Guy Rayfield. Currently contesting 7th place. Behind him is the Lamborghini of Smelly Hippie, but you can see that distance is quite significant now as Claffey gets to laser in on Rayfield. Is he going to be close enough by the time he comes out into the side draft? You can see how quickly his progress slows. And that McLaren, just from being around the outside, gets to hold onto his position, but Claffey goes for the inside. He's late on the brakes there, right in the curb as he goes into Le Bousset. Can he have the move up and away from Guy Rayfield? It certainly looks like it. Off the exit, and it's trouble from out behind. Guy Rayfield gets turned around after snap oversteer catches the McLaren. I think we'll get to see it just roughly there from the external cameras, but he did spin off the screen. You can see coming out of this corner there, the back end steps away from him. And there he snaps in toward the Lamborghini, and that bumps him out, now facing him the wrong way. Richard Claffey now defending 7th from an approaching number 420 Lamborghini. As we're back in the green flag conditions, 15 minutes left to go, some 10 minutes in on race 2. As we see there from the Lamborghini trying to spook the 93 out of its position, throwing quite a blindside leap for the inside there onto Richard Claffey. Let's go to catch on with Daniel Comendi, because this has been what a turnaround it's been here for Comendi at this time. He's on the podium with Ferrari at the time. It's a Ferrari 1-2-3 with Wagstaff and Appleton in front. Right now, Yuya Oya, following a second incident, is now 21st. It's 55 points against 10. It's a 45-point advantage in favour of Daniel Comendi. That would bring things into the positive with Comendi possibly to lead. Now, this does not factor yet the drop point system, so it could still be a little bit different here for the run-up towards tonight's event. Not tonight's event, sorry. The run-up towards next week's event at the season finale. That could put him in the green by about 4 points worth of a lead. And you've got to think from Comendi's point of view, came into tonight's event already double figures behind. After race 1, he was 41 points behind. It looked rather grim, the circumstances that could very well take him from the championship. And now suddenly, in one race, all of that's changed. It really does depend on what gets dropped under drop points at the moment as to what dictates the championship lead, because it is looking very, very positive thus far. We are taking note, though, that Yuya Oya is now 20th in this race, so that does raise the points gap up by another 2, so that would still mean Comendi is to lead this one by about 2 points, roughly. Hippie v Claffey, very much still on the card, so we do know out back is Den Hollander v Moore. And now, as you can see, it is one of the owned cars trying to get up and around, because that is Oscar Dizzy Oscar. That actually would spell to us, look like more trouble for the 919, because what is he doing here down with the 112? There, we get the confirmation of it. There has been trouble for Julian Den Hollander, as he falls in now to fight with Oscar Dizzy Oscar. He was close to more at one point, so it does raise a few alarm bells for whether or not there was some kind of incident between the two. We see another fight here for 10th. Matthias Winter versus Samuel Linton Bell. Hats off, though, to Bell, because he has been able to do the unthinkable in today's event, having come from the back of the field, 22nd of his own volition, is up 11 spots, and is quite literally here arm's distance from the top 10 as he barrels down onto the rear bumper of the 92. And he's done all of that, as you just heard, in one half of the race. There is still another half to be played for. And right now, we are watching with Samuel Linton Bell of Humbell Racing. There is a very real chance he could have P10 here, as he makes his way now up into the side draft of the 92 of Matthias Winter of CRT Racing Porsche, as they barrel down through to the Curb de Sang. We've seen this end in tears for so many. Will it be the same today? Side by side into the Curb de Sang they go from around the outside. The Porsche holds its ground. Admirable defense here by that of Matthias Winter. Goes late onto the brakes to try and loop things back in for a late apex at Le Bousset. That'll put into the inside of the Virage de Bendor, and looks to go possibly later of the two onto the brakes to stave off an advantage there by Samuel Linton Bell. This is brilliant side-by-side action between Porsche and Mercedes. Up through the curb to Galaban. Very, very solid defense there. Hats off to Matthias Winter. That takes some serious guts to pull off as well, considering the progress Linton Bell's been making. He's been on a rampage today in race 2. Meanwhile, there are still some fights going on. Eduardo O'Doney versus Connor Brennan for 5th. And on your screens at the moment now is Richard Claffey versus Smelly Hippie for 7th. These two have been right on top of each other in the last couple of laps, so it has been very entertaining to see their most recent updates on fighting. Up through the Verrières, we saw was a bit of a oversteer on the exit of the first corner there. Out of turn 2, he stiffened back up. So the 93 has lost a bit of time in the grand scheme. You can see behind him there is Mark Taylor. And I would say, much like the story of Samuel Linton Bell, hats off to Mark Taylor. Into the top 10, also from the back row on the 11th row of today's grid. You can see there going for the inside on Winter, or at least attempting to do so with Samuel Linton Bell, and the long shot there as we were watching on with the fight up in front of them. So we see them now make their way onto the Mistral. Hippie, Claffey, and now in the mix as well is Taylor. Number 11 picks up a drive-through. It cannot get worse for Yuya Oya. This has been, by and large, the worst evening for him in this championship after what has been such a stable performance, one that even came to a podium in race 1 with the fastest lap. This has been the one straw that broke the proverbial camel's back, with 10 minutes left to go, and it quite literally could not get worse if it tried now. Meanwhile, we see here for his teammate, Connor Brennan, having recently lost P5 to Eduardo O'Doney. O'Doney, I must say, has been quite a silent hero of this race. As O'Doney now in the top 5 for Ford. Now, just quickly glancing at his progress this season, Eduardo Odoni, 7th place in the championship. This is, right now, equalising on his best result of the season, of which he had in round 1 of the championship when we went to Imola. That's P5 at the moment. As far as the nearest fights go, again, it's Claffey and Hippie. But then behind is Winter and Linton Bell. We do see, though, out from the Virage DuPont, I believe Linton Bell did lay in a run to the inside, and that now places him 8/10 in the clear over Matthias Winter. As their fight continues to rage on, we see Bjorn Lars Blank and Oscar Dizzy Oskol trailing one another, trying to keep the heat off of them from Julian Den Hollander's number 919 Porsche. This triple header is certainly one we're going to have to catch back on board with here. We're just trying to dart around and get a sample of everything here. The Linton Bell v Winter fight, and of course the O'Donnell and Brennan fight up in front of them. Well, let's go to catch on board with the man in the middle. Once again on board to the number 420, as the number 11, I believe, has now come into the pit lane. Could that be a possible DNF? I'm not 100% sure. We'll wait for confirmation on that one. That could be huge for the championship prospects right now of Daniel Comendi. One evening could have just turned all of this around. We're on board with Hippie. He's in the slipstream on Richard Claffey, looking for his run to the inside. Can he make anything of it? He's close, but no cigar as we enter the Curve de San. You see, though, hooking back in, having lost a little bit of steam as he did off the Curve de San. Now through Lebusset. Lamborghini poking its nose to the inside on the Porsche. The Porsche's out wide at Lebusset, so going up for the position, as we see in the background, stepping out was the 555. That was oversteer for Mark Taylor. As now, Richard Claffey drops to 8th. Hippie's up to 7th. Taylor's in 9th. And their battle will continue. We'll catch on with this trio not too long from now as they exit the Virage DuPont. So you see from the pit lane, an uneasy state of affairs for Yuya Oya. A disaster here in the circuit. Paul Ricard could very well undo what has been one of the most secure leads of the championship we've seen on the run to a penultimate round. We see then in the remnant, this is his teammate Connor Brennan fighting for a top 5. Out behind them, though, it certainly looks like action is back on the charge here, between this time being Taylor and Claffey side by side into the Virage de la Hotel. The Porsche left out to pasture there. The BMW swings in on the Virage du Camp. That does create a bit of space here for the Lamborghini, but he catches on the curbs. That's trouble for Hippie. We see there the 555. I'm not sure what happened either. You can see these cold temperatures are making the car so sensitive to over-rotation. And that held all 3 of them up. As enough so, I would say, to almost invite in Linton Bell and Winter from behind. They're not too far away, mind you. What a sudden turn of events there. We get to see another fight. This is Daniel Den Hollander versus Guy Rayfield for 13th place. 6 minutes, 20 seconds left to go. Right now, as it stands to be the case, 22nd is the current position of the number 11. We get to see here going for the inside is Daniel Den Hollander. Held his nerves through there. Very well done for the 818 on the charge once again. As we'll take a look back in here with Hippie, as it does appear to be the case now that Taylor is in hot pursuit of him. We'll leave you with the Lamborghini, as now taking a look at that points distribution right now with Daniel Comendi P3 as it stands right now to be the case. Just taking a look here. And currently 22nd will be that of Yuya Oya. That leaves Oya to gain possibly 9 points in tonight's round. Comendi with 55. That is a 46-point advantage in favour of Comendi. That brings him up 5 points into the lead under basic calculations. That's yet, I would like to preface that with saying that is yet to be final, as we have to consider drop points in that calculation as well. We'll see what the results look like, but it could very likely see Comendi into the lead of the championship just as we head to Suzuka on September 5th. 5 minutes left to go. We're in the end game now for Rob Appleton to see his hat-trick of victories in what could very well be a Grand Slam tonight here at the circuit, Paul Ricard, his teammate Neil Wagstaff. And as we mentioned, we didn't get to see a lot of what he was capable of in race 1 because he was taken out so early. Wagstaff now holds P2. It's worth noting that Comendi is actually not too far off his trail at the moment. You can see in the same shot between these two is the number 5 pursuing the number 8 in through to Le Busset. The number 12 now has a drive-through penalty that's been recently dished out to Reese Humphreys, and painfully so, given that this has been a much stronger race of 2 here for Reese Humphreys. Things were very sour in race 1. This looked to have been the one that turned it all around, but a drive-through has a thing or two to say on the matter. You see here from Taylor, chipping away on the shoulder of the 420 of Hippie. You can see that Lamborghini is becoming increasingly unstable, but that's not to say that BMW hasn't had its own struggles in the last couple of laps. They walk on a razor's edge then to fight on 7th at this time. Behind them, Richard Claffey by 1.4 seconds. Behind Claffey by 1.3 is Samuel Linton-Bell. Now, this is about to take a bump for the better for these two, as they are about to find themselves fighting for 6th place, as Reese Humphreys has come in to serve their drive-through penalty. 3.5 minutes left to go here on race 2. Meanwhile, one of the closer fights at the moment is going on here. Oscar Dizzy-Oskal versus Julian Den Hollander, that has recently seen the 112 up into command of a fight on 16th. Behind them, Colin Beattie versus Bjorn Lars Blank. They fight for 18th place at this time, having served his drive-through as he re-emerges there just in behind Guy Rayfield and Salvatore Borgetto is Reese Humphreys, falling from the top 15. Meanwhile, Comendi, I mean, he is 1.1 seconds. He's held things close here. There is still absolutely the chance for him to fight for P2, but we want to go and catch on board now with Taylor v. Hippie in the fight on P6. We've seen things from the eyes of Smelly Hippie for long enough. Let's go and find things from a unique point of view. Going to catch with the BMW of Mark Taylor. Fighting for P6. You can see he's hooked onto that Lamborghini. The BMW just has a little bit more to give in the top end. And in the slipstream, it's just waltzing on past the 420. But sadly, that straightaway is just not long enough to see full advantage by the BMW. He's still stuck in out past the Curb de Sang, now down through to Le Busset. These two have been piled in on top of each other for the longest time here, and I think we are expecting, by looks of it here, 2 more laps from the point of view of the 153. We're about to head on to the penultimate lap of today's race from the 153's point of view. Meanwhile, for these two, they enter their penultimate lap of fighting for P6. It has been a proper disaster there for Yuya Oya. If the points stick as they are, he's going to lose the championship lead by 5 points and will have to fight it in Suzuka for the championship title. Onid Racing could definitely be seeing a bump in tonight's event when it comes to the team's championship. Now, they were very close on intercepting P3. I'd say that is still absolutely a chance they can have in today's event. They may very well likely come up into P3 or even north of that on the run up towards round 8. See here with Mark Taylor, he is just piling on to that 420. Up and around the Virage de la Saint-Baume onto the Mistral. Now, same area where he was able to intercept the Lamborghini, but very nearly had it. Sadly, nothing came of it over the course of that last lap. Roughly the same distance we see here from the BMW. You see, once he comes up in towards 6th, is when he can really start opening the taps. He's working with 4 less cylinders than the Lamborghini in front of him. Inline 6 versus V10. As they come up side by side through the Curb de Sang. From the long way around town, he's looking for it. Can he find it? He's still side by side. Actually, technically ahead here from the outside as we head in towards Le Busset. Side by side, nearly a door ding between the pair of them as they exit through Le Busset. The Lamborghini still holds its ground. That was very entertaining between the duo, as we are about to see from the 153 the entry into the last lap. Not long from now, we're going to catch on board with Rob Appleton, possibly to see him to his hat-trick of victories in a Grand Slam here in Le Castellet. That is if you don't count the fastest laps, as it was Yuya Oya at the end of race 1 with the fastest lap. If we're talking just leading positions, that is a Grand Slam for the 153. We'll wait to see it, though, as we continue to see the action from the fight here between Smelly Hippie and Mark Taylor. And once again, like, oh my word there, did you see the exit from Borgetto? It's such a sketchy pit exit here in Le Castellet. That could have took both of them. That could have took both of them in the blink of an eye. That was terrifying. Let's not have any more of that. And once again, like in race 1, it has been a battle from behind the lead that has stolen away the show from the leading performance, this time 2 in all from Oned Racing. With Wagstaff in second at the moment, and Appleton looking at yet another victory, his 3rd to be precise in a row. We'll wait to see it at the checkered flag, because right now we're still watching the last lap of battling on what has now exploded into 4 cars in contention inside of that top 10. Hippie, Taylor, Claffey and Linton Bell. And this has been such a frustrating sight. He's been able to study that exhaust manifold intently now, because that's the only thing he's been able to see over the course of today's race. But this could be where it changes now. Side by side into the Curve de Sang once again, even closer now on the run through this time. Can it be 3rd time's the charm on their prospects to fight? He leads out through the Curve de Sang, but on the inside at Le Busset will be the Lamborghini of Hippie. Where does it land between these two? Off the exit of Le Busset, the Lamborghini just about holds it, but to the inside will be the number 153, we'll say though, down to the line to see the checkered flag is the 153. Rob Appleton secures a hat-trick of victories, 2 of which here at the circuit Paul Ricard, unstoppable. For an Oned 1-2 and a Ferrari 1-2-3. Neil Wagstaff 2nd, Kemendi in 3rd, O'Doney to 4th, Brennan to 5th. But what happens here as Taylor now emerges ahead of the Virage Dupont? It could be a drag race to the line. Who takes it? Will it be Hippie? Will it be Taylor? It looks to be Taylor by a hair's width. Mark Taylor to 6th, Hippie to 7th, Linton Bell to 8th, Claffey to 9th, Winter to 10th. Rob Appleton, though, take a bow. The 153, fastest in free practice, fastest in quali 1, winner of race 1, fastest in quali 2, winner of race 2. That is unlike anything I think I've ever seen, certainly in this season. Where have you been all this time, Mr. Appleton? That is the real question. Had you been here from round 1, the conversation of the championship lead would have had a broadly different tune to it. Rob Appleton, a hat-trick of victories since debut to Season 2. 2 of which tonight here, back-to-back in Paul Ricard, and I would say, spiritual Grand Slam, if we're not counting those fastest laps along with it. An Oned Racing 1-2, that's proper justice for Wagstaff after his dismay in race 1. We see the final results in on there. Appleton, Wagstaff and Kemendi, your Ferrari 1-2-3 here at the circuit Paul Ricard in race 2. O'Doney 4th, Brennan 5th, Taylor in 6th. I would say hats off there to Taylor. Came from 21st to 6th place. Honourable mention there to Linton Bell, 22nd to 8th. Between them, Hippie in 7th. Super close fight to the checkered flag between those 4, with Claffey in behind for 9th place. It's Matthias Winter who rounds out that top 10. What a show from those lot. Then further down the line from 11th to 20th, we have Daniel Den Hollander, Sean Moore, Reese Humphreys, Guy Rayfield, Oscar Dizzy Oskal, Julian Den Hollander, Colin Beattie, Bjorn Lars Blank, René Dola now into the top 20, and Andre Koch in 20th. But this is really where the controversy starts, because out of 21st, we obviously have there Salvatore Borgetto with some trouble for him in the latter part, but Yuya Oya in 22nd, technically a DNF. We'll see if that gets classified that way. Under our calculations, we had it originally pitched that he would still get the points for it. We have seen some championships take it that way. And should that be the case, that's going to place, before drop points play any hand, that would place Kemendi into the lead by roughly 4 or 5 points. We'll see what it shows as we head in towards Suzuka at the final round of the championship on September 5th. But what a performance by Rob Appleton and Oned Racing. I mean, you couldn't put a foot wrong there if you tried. I've never seen more of a grand show there in easily months. Easily months. Very well done then to Rob Appleton. Double winner here at the circuit Paul Ricard. So, away from action here at round 7. As mentioned before, round 8, the season finale at the Suzuka International Racing Course is set to go ahead on September 5th, 2026. 2026, I should say, not 2026. So yes, that'll be 7 o'clock PM BST, same time as today. If you're catching us for more action here on TRTN before the week is out, one more race to cover, I should say, coming up tomorrow. That's 6:30 PM BST, Season 7, Round 2 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by TRTN. We're live from Bathurst in what I'm told, brace for impact here, could be mixed conditions. There is a very real chance of wet racing tomorrow in the land down under. We have seen a dry Bathurst lay ruin to the Sunday League grid before in the last 2 seasons. I fear the next 24 hours. Come along and see it then, 6:30 PM BST tomorrow evening, Season 7, Round 2. And then the itinerary into next week, we'll get a look on with that on our coverage of Sunday League tomorrow. So do stay tuned. What a race it's been, though, today. Very well done then to Rob Appleton. 3 wins in a row now in his technically 4th race appearance, 3rd round appearance here in Season 2. Oned Racing secure a 1-2 after such a massive restructuring to their numbers in this series. Very well done to them. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.